This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakelin.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking. And Stephen Buonocore in the third chair.
We now have proof positive that Tom Bassel has gone insane.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at the speed of a very fast traitor revealing himself the worst possible moment. Woo. Today's edition is brought to you by all of our fine friends over at Patreon that help us keep doing this show, which would not exist without them. And today we're going to thank Todd Alstrom, Eric Beeson, Jordan Steinhoff, Patrick Drabotij, and I'm sorry about that, and Marcus Bone. I'm Geekly McGarden, your host today. Our panelists are Russ, Terry Pratchett, Nightwatch Wakelin, and the Grand Guru of Games, Stephen Chris Mullins. Oh, God, for the love of all that is holy on God's green earth. Chris Mullins, a very British Buonocore from Stronghold Games. Let's please begin.
What did you just say?
Issue number 1. Betrayal is defined as the breaking or violation of a presumptive contract, trust, or confidence that produces moral and psychological conflict within a relationship amongst individuals, between organizations, or between individuals and organizations. What better way to add a little spice to a fun game among friends? Question. One result of betrayal is a state known as betrayal trauma, which is likened to post-traumatic stress disorder in how it affects behavior and perception. However, whereas PTSD is seen as motivated primarily by one emotion, betrayal trauma is primarily motivated by another. Which emotion fuels betrayal trauma? Wong Ji-Win Wakelin.
Fear.
Christopher Boyce Buonocore.
That was pretty good. I'm going to go with anger.
And that is correct, which makes Russ wrong.
I was right.
Anger, that burning sense of unfairness and anger that churns through almost every game with a traitor mechanic and makes it all so much fun. Fear, however, is what the driving force behind PTSD is. Issue number 2. Thanks to the proliferation of cable television channels in the United States, summers, once the boring dumping ground of reruns and third-rate cast-offs, can now claim roaring successful shows of their own. Whether you're talking about Game of Thrones or the entire slate of the TNT network, everyone's into the big gig now, and no one lacks for their own attempts to grab a slice of that summer viewer pie. Question. What was the most successful television show who had ever had its premiere episode aired during the summer? Susan Ross Russ.
Oh, man. I'm
I like it.
going to guess Psych, but that's probably too recent.
Kenny Banya Buonocore.
I'll go with Fear the Walking Dead.
Seinfeld!
Oh.
Believe it or not, Seinfeld, the original pilot known as the Seinfeld Chronicles, was launched in the summertime. And it went on and on and on and dealt with absolutely nothing. Issue number 3. At any point in history, folks are concerned about the state of their most beloved institutions. Whether we're talking about the Roman legions, the New England Patriots, or Stronghold Games, people like to follow the fortunes of their favorites and look to the future. Question. On the Wraith scale of success, what is the current state of the gaming industry? Rank and Raspy Russ.
Mildly enjoyable.
Spiky Sluggish Steven.
Booming.
Wrong! Eclat! Eclat! It might be French. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's random. Certainly not oversaturated, though. You can never be over wet. That was a callback. Issue number 4. Most social games benefit greatly from the addition of a hidden traitor mechanic. Whether it is the desperate efforts of the humans of Battlestar Galactica versus the Toasters, or the even more nefarious, lying, no-good, stinking outlaws of Bang and Bang the Dice game, we love to stab our friends in the back or accuse them of doing so at random at every opportunity. Question. What is considered the greatest hidden traitor mechanic game of all time? Charles Radcliffe Russ.
Werewolf.
Igor Sitigoyan Steven.
I guess we just have to go with Werewolf. It's brilliant.
Wow. I really didn't anticipate this. You are both legitimately wrong. Diplomacy.
Oh, yes.
How did
yes.
Stephen get the title of third chair
but it's
most
not
likely
really
to
hidden.
stab you in the back? Diplomacy.
Well, it's not hidden traitor.
That's
Hidden
it for
traitor.
now. If you tell somebody A and then you do B, you're a traitor. That's it for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. take your game to the next level.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G.
Hello.
Hey, and welcome to episode 174.
That's like right around the corner from a big milestone.
It is of the D6 generation. I'm Russ Wakelin.
I'm Craig Gallant.
And I'm Stephen Buonocore, president
Steven
of Stronghold Games. Yay!
Buonocore,
Steven
president
Buonocore.
of Stronghold Games.
The
Hey,
Podfather
President
himself.
of Stronghold Games.
My chair still doesn't do that. 6 years I've been coming here.
Yes, no effects for you, sir.
All about the echo.
Don't taunt
How
the guests,
low
Craig.
can you go? What?
Don't taunt the guests. Okay,
Don't taunt the guests.
Sorry.
So, Stephen, so happy to have you back on the show.
Sorry.
And since Stephen Buonocore is here and has released several games with Traitor mechanics in them, we thought that would be
And he's the person, the third chair most likely to stab you in the back.
Indeed.
According to the D6 generation listenership.
Yes, these things happen.
Yeah.
We thought it would be great to do a little mulling mechanics on the Traitor mechanic,
That's an awesome mulling mechanic.
which some
And
folks...
it is my favorite. My favorite
Yes.
single mechanic in board gaming is the hidden traitor mechanic. So
It is nice.
See, I
it's
love
a good
I'm
one.
excited
It's a
about
good
this.
one.
I love
we
see-
even teach Russ that it has to be hidden.
No, see...
That
see,
the correct
this
term is hidden
it's-
traitor mechanic.
I just don't like, redundancy. And if a traitor is not hidden, they're not actually a traitor.
Oh, we're going to argue semantics.
We
now.
are. So if you have a hidden traitor...
That'll be awesome radio.
Also, since Stephen Buonocore is in the industry, we thought we might talk a bit about industry trends.
Yes,
Right.
what's going on in the
Right.
industry? What is the state of the industry?
What's
I
happening?
hear it's booming.
Right. That's what they say.
Morning radio, morning drive time here at the WC. No, just kidding.
Home of the triple time check. It's 8:15, quarter past the hour. All right, so here we go. But first, we do have Stephen's been kind enough. Now, we just wrapped up.
Yep. We just did an awesome contest, but
Yes, we just wrapped up.
Steven is constitutionally incapable
Yes.
of showing up at the D6 generation and not doing an amazing contest.
Not
That is
giving
absolutely
stuff
right.
away. So we are going to actually do another awesome Stronghold Games contest to win. Stephen,
Yeah,
what,
you all thought there was an echo.
what are you giving away, Stephen?
Well, you want to put the echo on my voice? No, you can't put
I
it on my
can't.
voice.
I can repeat what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. All
All right. Since you guys have such a huge
Since
fan
you got, just kidding.
please. We'll never get through this. Since
No.
you gentlemen have such a huge fan base in miniatures, of course,
Yes.
miniatures gamers yourselves, and I thought that one of my latest games is Space Cadets Away Missions,
Right.
which is the latest, the third game in the Space Cadets saga of cooperative and team-based games.
Right.
And in that game is over 100 miniatures, 102 to be
Yes,
exact
and they are
miniatures,
awesome
including
looking.
a brain in a
Chock full of
jar.
Beautiful brain,
Brain
in a jar.
It is.
And Russ
It's,
can tell you how beautiful those miniatures look and how beautiful that game plays.
it's worth the price of admission just for the brain in the jar. I am being
Awesome.
honest. And
So we're going to give away at least one Space Cadets Away Missions.
Yes.
Which is a $99.95. That's $100
Yes.
between you and me. Value game, $100 game.
Nice.
exactly.
To someone who
Some
gives us the
lucky listener.
best. What? Russ, have you come up with?
Yes,
What to do?
we want so this is a big prize, and to match a big prize, we need the last contest was just tweet something. This one we're getting more serious about. So we were back to our 30-second spot. So what we'd like you to do is submit a 30-second soundbite, all right, commercial, if you will, or intro for or trailer for essentially a golden age of sci-fi styled spot promoting either Space Cadets Away Missions or Stronghold Games or the D6 generation or any combination
Yes.
of those topics, right? So when we say
Exactly.
golden age of sci-fi, Craig, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the adventures of Buck Rogers.
Yes.
Or something along those
Or
lines.
Flash
any of those-
Gordon, any of that,
Flash
that
Gordon.
1950s, 40s, or old Tomorrowland, Disney World.
Ships,
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Rocket-shaped rocket ships.
Yes.
Any of those campy 1950s kind of movies that were out there. And if people want to take a look at some of the things that, like some of the artwork that some of the fans have posted, they go over to Board Game Geek and look at Space Cadets Away missions and look for there's some of these really awesome like wartime posters. Mm-hmm. You don't remember those wartime posters from like World War II, right? That people put. I've actually put a couple in the show notes. I don't know if you guys can put that in the notes, but
we'll do that.
They actually have like these that some of the fans did like posters that would actually kind of like make sense for this game, and you could do that around a war poster. Like one of them says, "Be vigilant, report all landings," right. Public safety announcement and things like that. So we're just looking for any kind of golden age of sci-fi spot, which that's what the game is themed in. It's a precursor, a prequel to the other Space Cadets games, which are more like Star Trek. Like, we don't use that term, but more like Star Trek.
Gene Roddenberry inspired universe, right?
Yes, that inspired universe.
Right.
So if you guys can come up with something like this, that would be great. And you know what? I can't give away one game. We have to give away at least 2 games.
Oh, nice! Wow.
So let's have at least a first prize and a runner up.
Nice.
We'll send it globally. I love you guys. I love the listeners of the D6 generation. This game is my like magnum opus. On my tombstone, this game is going to be on there. Like Buonocore created this game. It is off the hook, big in every way, shape, and form.
Is it off the chain?
It is off the chain. And it is amazing. And I can testify to this because I own a copy. I saw it at Gen Con. It is awesome. There's so many great miniatures in here. So to enter the contest, what you want to do is record yourself or your team of audio professionals or whatever you're doing to make this 30-second spot, and then send it to contest@thd6generation.com. And this is going to be our traditional 2 episodes. So this is episode 174. So in episode 176, when that airs, that'll be the last time to get any entries in, and then we'll award the prizes in 177. And Stephen has agreed to be a cameo on that episode to help us judge.
He has begged, actually, to have a cameo.
All right, well, begging might have been a little bit.
I saw begging.
Oh, no, every episode, every time you're on, you're like, and I can judge. You're very nice. You offer, and then we got all
Something
wrapped
happens.
up in whatever we're doing next. But this time it's going to happen.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we'll do that too. So very excited about that. So Stephen, thank you so much for
thank you for having me on.
Very generous as
always. Thank you for letting me do this. I really appreciate you guys, and this is great.
So thank you. So now also we before we get to Achievements in Gaming here, we also just launched another Lost Chapters here. And do you guys remember what we talked about in Dunkin' Donuts?
Miniature trucks.
No.
Television,
which is the best donut.
No. Well, yes, but that wasn't the whole thing.
Summer television viewing, and the new shows coming in the fall.
Yeah, so we had one in the spring where we talked about we're looking forward to summer. So now we're going to wrap up what we thought of the summer shows and then talked about what is coming out this fall that we're really excited about.
Oh, there's some doozies.
Because, the Lost Chapters is just what we do. If we were sitting around with our friends just talking about random geek stuff, that would be what we talk about. So that's what this is. So, Craig, if people want to listen to these crazy Lost Chapters, what do they do?
Well, the best way for all involved would be for you to go to patreon.com, look up the D6 generation, watch the freaky little video that Russ and I made, and then click on one of those buttons, whatever you think the D6 generation is worth as a little tip, as a little bonus. Currently, we're trending at about 1% of our listenership doing this, and we appreciate every one of you doing it. You guys are the creme de la creme. We appreciate it. It makes the show possible. Without exaggeration, it's you guys now that are making the show possible. Yes. And so if you do that and you decide that the show is worth $2 an episode, you click on the $2 an episode button. That will unlock for you all of the Lost Chapters in the entire Lost Chapter library. Mm-hmm. And then you will comment on our little, we actually have a comment board now with we always had with the Patreon. And you'll say, Russ, I can't get it to work. And Russ will go, oh, it's easy. You do like that. I see a lot of those go by. And I'm just like, I don't know. I wish I could help you. But, yes, you have access to all of the Lost Chapters for the measly price of $2 per episode tip.
Yes. There you go. So, thank you so much for everybody supporting that. And, also, if you want to help people more than just us, then
if you want to help, if you want to actually help people who deserve the help,
yes, who are not just podcasters,
you deserve help
panhandling in the streets. you can help kids who need help in hospitals
around the world.
Yes, by helping out with Extra Life, which, as you may know, is essentially a pledge-a-thon for people to game for 24 hours straight, and it can be any kind of gaming. And to get there, you want to go to www.extra-life.org. Okay? And when you go there, it'll take you to the Extra Life homepage. And then when you search in the top, search for the D6 Generation. And what you'll find is our team with Craig, myself, and other listeners who have joined in. And so if you want to help real quick, you don't have time to play this whole crazy 24-hour thing, you can just pledge to some amount of money to Craig or myself or anybody of the other listeners on our team. Or if you were like, yeah, I'm going to do this myself, create your own account and link up to our team. And let's form a posse here and raise some money for kids. And the best part about this is 100% of the money that gets raised, 100%, not 99%, not 90%, 100 of it goes to these hospitals. You choose the hospital you wish to support. So Craig and I have both chosen Boston Children's.
Yep. But you can choose any hospital near you or that has that has touched your heart or your family. The great thing about us expanding this team now is that globally the D6 Generation can help kids everywhere now. Right. Now the problem is that it's only a little more than a month and a half away, and we've got 3 people total in our team. We've got Russ, we've got me, who have both done 0. Right. And then Jeremy Haugen, who's still cranking it out there.
In the lead.
So please go to the D6, go to the extralife.org website, find us, join our team. Let's start raising money for these kids. Russ and I really need to step up.
We do.
And I've got a couple projects that I have to finish.
Yes.
Morally speaking, for my head to be clear so I can start on this year. But yes, we need to do it for the kids.
Listen, some of us are lazy out there though, guys. So you should send the exact link to me. Because I need to donate to you. I do. I usually do. I want it.
Sending it
so
to you
you'll
now.
Send it to me.
I will absolutely send that to you.
And you know what? You might want to. I'm just a thought here. And we didn't talk about this. Create an Extra Life at d6generation.com email address, and if anybody wants that link, and they're lazy like me, they can send it there, and then you'll send them the link too, because we are lazy, but we want to donate. So I want to donate to you guys.
So just send me an email. If you send an email request like Steven does to any of our email addresses, so Craig at the D6generation.com or Russ at the D6generation.com or even contest at the D6generation.com, if you put Extra Life in the title, we will send you the information to do that. We'll also start, so normally we do this, we start doing this about this time anyway. We'll start tweeting out the links as well as putting on our Facebook page. So watch those as well, and we'll keep reminding everybody about it because this is something that's near and dear to our hearts. It's the biggest charity that we really drive towards every year, and it has had a major impact on both of Craig and my children. We've both been to Boston Children's, and they're great people there. And
my
it's just
niece and nephew and both of his daughters.
Yes. So again, definitely check it out. Either do something for yourself with it, or just donate what you can because we'd really appreciate it, and the kids would appreciate it too.
There's more ways to support now. That's all it means.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Right. So that is that. So Craig, what's the time now for?
Right now it's time for.
This thing on.
Achievements in gaming.
Yeah.
Always the professional.
That was dramatic tension.
Consummate. It was dramatic tension is what you call that. And of course, Achievements in Gaming is brought to us by all our great friends over at Patreon. Thanks for all the help over there, everybody. And if you'd like to help, head on over to patreon.com as well.
Yes.
Okay, so what have you been playing lately, Stephen Buonocore?
I'm going to be so self-serving here, which is I really don't want to be.
It's your job, buddy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I don't want to sound like a complete shill, although I am. No, but I mean, I've been playing a lot of my stuff because I really need to get down rules, get down concepts, get down the games so that I can, we had, Gen Con is, it's a month away, but now Essence coming up, so I needed to really make sure that I was completely on top of the games. I don't go out and teach the games, unfortunately, at these conventions. I can't. I have to take meetings, but, I want to make sure that I'm fully versed. So really, I have been playing. I had my copy that I brought back from Gen Con myself of Space Cadets Away Missions. So we just played that last week. I also played my copy of Survive Space Attack. Lagrange, which is my big Euro game from the middle of the summer, got a chance to play it that I hadn't played it since I got the prototype. And, of course, Dark Moon, which has become like my favorite game right now because Hidden Traitor is my thing, as we'll talk about in a little while. It is so my thing. Hey, I want four. There
you go.
Ooh.
Well, let's talk about some of the other.
Keep them honest. Keep them honest.
Come on, that's right. Keeping him on. I want my achievements, man. But as far as other people's stuff, I want to give mad props for a couple of games that I have also played recently. Batman Love Letter, man. Love Letter is a game from AEG that came out a while ago. Big hit, micro game. The Batman version, so good. So if you guys get a chance to play that, you guys know Love Letter, of course, right?
Is Batgirl in it?
No, Batgirl is not in it. But all of the...
Then I don't get it.
I don't understand the point, really.
I don't get it. Is Catwoman in it?
Yeah, is Catwoman in it?
I don't get it.
I mean, is she?
Is Penguin even in this thing? Is it just Batman?
I forgot the criminals. I forgot this. There are
just Batman?
Is Poison Ivy in it?
Is Joker in it?
I don't get it.
The Joker's in it. Harley Quinn is in it.
Oh.
Harley Quinn, I get. Joker, I don't get that.
Anyway, it's really well done.
I mean, the love letter though. The term love letter is so widely, it's so diluted now. It could mean almost anything.
If it was Batman and Catwoman, it might work. Is Catwoman in it? No, we said no. Right?
I don't remember. I don't remember all the
Buonocore, what kind of mini?
Stephen, why are you even here?
Why am I here? I mean, I shouldn't even be on this show.
Oh, geez.
Anyway.
Does Vassal let you get away with this stuff? Like this lack of detail?
Seriously, I don't get it. We want the Vassal quality production level here, Stephen. I think you're giving us like second rate attention span. I don't know.
As we'll talk about in a little while, Vassal has gone insane, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. The other game that I also played by another company, my buddies over at CGE, Codenames. Have you guys tried Codenames? Big hit at Gen Con.
Yes.
No. Have you played it?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Oh my God! Yeah, I mean it so deserves the kudos it's getting. Great party game. Something you can really bring out with anybody. Really brings out the social nature of gamers. So really in love with that for parties, nice big groups and stuff like that.
Steven, you've got them scared. You're getting an achievement like for every game you play.
Absolutely,
he never does that for anybody else. Good job.
And a number of prototypes also. That this is the season to be playing prototypes as we get them and bring them back from conventions, and especially when we come back from Essen, it's going to be prototype madness till the end of the year. So that's been my set of achievements.
Cool.
Very nice.
Russ, how about you?
Okay, well, let's see. I backed a Kickstarter. Yeah, I know. For a game called Steampunk Rally. Have you heard of this game? Anybody?
No. Nope.
All right. So it features a couple of my favorite things. First of all, it has racing with ships you build yourself. So a little bit of Galaxy Trucker, right?
Yeah.
It's also got a great theme, which is steampunk, which I like. And then it's also got historical scientific figures lifted from history, put in this alternate reality universe. So basically, you play the part of a crazy, well, not crazy, but a scientist. So it might be the Wright brothers or an inventor, really. The Wright brothers, and it's anachronistic. So the Wright brothers are there, along with Albert Einstein, along with Alexander Graham Bell, along with just Tesla and everybody, right? Lots and lots of them. And even Toyota, like the guy who founded Toyota is in there. And so what you do is you get your character, and then there's decks of cards that are going to let you build some kind of crazy steam-powered racing vehicle. Mm-hmm. There's also then a board in the middle of the table, which is made of tiles, so the board is variable layout. And you and your inventors then are going to there's actually a couple different mechanics. There's a drafting mechanic where each round you're going to draft from a small hand of cards to get more cards to add to your contraption. So you're basically adding flapping wings to the top, or you're adding a boiler, which generates more steam for your different parts of your ship, or maybe you're adding a drill to be able to go underground or whatever. Then each round, you then are going to have this giant pool of dice. There's like 100 dice in this game. And you, based on the kind of, so it's dice placement also. So you're going to roll a pool of dice that you're going to get, and the dice you're going to get, and the colors of dice you're going to get, indicating the kind of energy you're generating, whether it's steam or heat or electricity. And the kind of dice you get are by the parts of your ship. So if you have electrically generated parts, whatever, you roll these things, and there's other parts of your ship which then use those types of energy. So, for example, if you have wheels, those are steam-powered wheels. So if you have a part of your ship that generates steam, so you might have a part of your ship that's a boiler that generates heat. You then put the heat red dice into the steam generating part, which generates blue dice, and then the blue dice go into the wheels to make the thing go. Right?
You're doing a game review here.
No, yeah, kinda. It's good though. I really like it. So I'll do more review.
Great.
But it's a pretty neat game. It plays in about an hour, and it plays up to 8 players. I played it with my daughters now twice, and everybody liked it. It's a lot of fun. So, and they like the historical context. They actually are digging like the different inventors. It comes with like 10 different inventors, which is pretty cool.
Very nice.
Also played another game of Forbidden Stars, which again is the 40K World Conquest game. Loving that game still. Played
16 famed inventors.
16, right? Yeah, a bajillion of them. I can't remember how many. Then
16 is very close to a bajillion.
It is close to a bajillion. Then also a Space Attack, which is
Space Attack.
Yeah, Survive Space Attack by some company I can't remember the name of, but yep.
Steven, you should be on every show just to make sure he gets the names of your games right.
I like how he's adding exclamation points here. It's actually Survive Space Attack with 3 exclamation points. Apparently, is the official title by Stronghold Games. There's only one? Okay, good. Make
Steven
sure I get the branding right.
infiltrated the show note document and is editing it to suit.
Fantastic opponent. Still an awesome game. I love it. And we have all agreed, Stephen, that this out-survives survive. So I don't know if that was your intent, but we think so.
Well, no, I mean, thank you. I think the Engelsteins did a phenomenal job of upping the ante with Survive Space Attack. I mean, they reimagined it. Survive still, I think, is the ultimate gateway game you can play with your grandmother, your youngest kids.
Yep.
So with Survive Space Attack, it gets a little more gamerly.
Yep.
Still approachable by kids, but no, I'm really excited about the game. I think it's going to be a huge seller for us.
I think you nailed it.
A lot of fun.
If that was your goal, you nailed it because that's exactly what it feels like. And then also I played some more. So I'm such a proud geek dad. So my oldest daughter, it was her 13th birthday this month in August here. So what we did was she again wanted to have what she calls a Dungeons & Dragons all-night birthday party. So she invites her cousins over, which are my niece and nephew, obviously, and my brother comes over. Now, my brother and I are getting too old for all-night D&D, so what we do is we play the campaign I've been running, the Horde of the Dragon Queen. I've been running now for a while. So we play that from like noon to like 8. And then my brother and I go to bed, and then my daughter, she's also GMing a game with just them. And then they play that until they pass out, basically, which I don't know how long they got last time. But it was great fun.
That's great.
And they had another great moment where they are traveling incognito, right? Mm-hmm. And a character notices, one of the guys they're trying to follow and not be noticed by, notices that one of their party members is potentially a problem. And they think they figured out who he is. So they're worried about this guy. They got to take this guy out. So they're trying to figure out a way to get this guy out of the picture, basically kill him, but not arouse suspicion of everybody else and have it point back to them. So they come up with this whole plot where we've got this druid and we got this ranger. The druid can turn into a wolf and the ranger has a wolf friend. So if they go out and try to find a couple more wolves, we can arrange a wolf attack on this guy and get him maimed near the thing and killed, and they'll think a wolf got him. And they come up with this really, really interesting, convoluted plot, and it actually totally worked. It was hilarious and really another one of those great scenes.
That's great.
It just shows problem solving and how fun it is to play these games with kids. So
that's great. And the kids did that.
Yeah, the kids thought it up themselves.
Awesome.
And my brother's like, "This is awesome!" So we just played this whole thing out. It was a great scene. D&D 5e just still nailing the right blend of all the crunchiness you want, but keeping it light enough to keep it moving, and you can do a lot of stuff and get a lot of content in an evening. So still loving 5e. It's my favorite version right now of a fantasy role-playing game. Really,
fantastic.
Really good stuff. So, Craig, that's my stuff. How about you, sir?
Well, I have actually bailed on game night 2 weeks in a row now.
Oh, dear.
To go to Rafe D&D.
Oh, yes. How's that been going?
Which is very intriguing because Rafe D&D theoretically is supposed to only happen. I'm sort of aggravated. A lot of my friends play a lot of D&D, and so it takes them away from game night a lot. And Russ has been gone, and so I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. They've invited me several times. When we went to Gen Con, they asked me why I wouldn't go, and they said I could drop in whenever I want. And so what I did was I said, okay, what level are you guys? They're level 5. And so I just took my Dragonborn character from John's campaign and I bumped him up a couple levels with just the regular bonus standard stuff. And then I went last week, and last week we had the worst thunderstorm in a very, very, very long time in southern central New Hampshire. And so around 9:30, I started getting texts from my wife, and I sort of sensed what was behind those texts. And so I had to call my night short, and which was okay, because apparently we're playing the blah 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 Dragon Queen or whatever the campaign is.
That's what I'm running to. Yeah,
and I'm not super impressed. It's like so far. Well, I've got 2 sessions with Rafe. One of them was really kind of, I spent the whole night there. I made 3 dice rolls. Everything I tried to do failed clearly because the campaign didn't want it to succeed, and there was no like workaround for me. So I was just like, oh wow. And then, then the text, I was like, oh, gotta go. And then last night we did it again. It was much more fun. I think it's very hard, not because of the system, just because of role playing in general. It's very hard to do non-combat stuff. I think you have to put work into it and like have it planned out ahead of time so that you know like what skills are going to be used and have a good idea of what different levels of success might look like. So you have to be versed in your story, I think, to get a lot of like cool investigative non-combat stuff in. And I think Rafe has approached this whole D&D thing like, I would like to do this with my friends. And so it's just a happy-go-lucky, randomly Rafe-ly sort of thing. And so, like, that's why, like, oh, okay, I'm going to go question that guy. Yeah, he says, get out of my way. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to make an intimidation roll. Oh, because I'm really damn
I'm
good
just
at
going to go on a limb here and say I wouldn't put that as an indictment against Horde of the Dragon Queen, the module, and maybe
no,
the
I know.
DM's DM style.
But
Maybe
the problem
it's just
was
random Rafe, right?
I'm just throwing it out there.
The main thing, the main issue I had was, and he said, like, is the module set up like in as adventures, like in chunks that are supposed to be sessions?
No.
Then the pacing issue is not the fault of the module.
So like for example, there is a chapter that my party has been in now for 5 sessions, and but the adventure is divided into chapters, and I have just decided that I don't care how fast they go if they want to. I mean, we're just having fun, right? It's a journey, not a destination. So there's no like, you know what I mean?
How zen.
It's right. So, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no like.
Okay, so let me without like giving too much detail. Right. So you're following the caravan, up to the giant way station, and the stuff is getting funneled through the warehouse back doorway. Okay,
you're ahead of where we are now, but I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Well, so you haven't done that part yet?
No. See, like the whole wolf thing.
I don't know. I just jumped in at the way station.
That was while they're in the caravan. So spoiler alert: the caravan Craig's talking about. There's a scene where the party is, or a part of the story where the party is in the caravan disguised as caravan members. Yeah. And this part here, I had 2 full side adventures that I just totally made up in there that weren't even part of the story. But one of them ones they suggest you can do is have a person kind of get a feeling that one of the characters is actually one of the heroes from earlier in the adventure. And so I did that, and that all played out into this giant wolf thing that was really a non-combat scene. It was all this checking and side checks, but it was all seat of the pants stuff, and it wasn't. But there's not like the book doesn't say like in one play session you must get from A to B. Like that's not in there.
No, and okay, because basically the entire session that I'm talking about, we got to the way station, we found the trapdoor, we followed it, and then we got in a big fight at the end.
All right.
And that was a whole night thing. And it was trying to question NPCs, and they just wouldn't answer. It was a very frustrating, and I think Rafe, like, either he didn't really like that part, so he wasn't, it just wasn't gelling. And then last night it was gelling much better, and it was a lot more fun, and I got to do my cool stuff, and so it's just I just put it out there that those of you who've been listening for a long time, and you've heard all of our lost chapters with Ross Watson, and you've heard all of our segments with Ross Watson, and of course the number one rule of Ross Watson role playing is you never say no.
Right.
That doesn't mean find creative ways to
say no.
Stop your characters without saying no.
Right.
That would be the takeaway that I had. And so, but I still had fun, and it's still like the lion's share of my core group of friends, especially when Russ can't make it. And then Matt was gone doing something else. And so I enjoyed it. So not only did I enjoy it, but I went and I bought myself a birthday present.
Ooh, nice. What'd you get?
I got myself the Iron Kingdom messenger bag from
Nice.
Battlefront.
That is such a good bag. Yeah.
Well, it's been sitting on the shelf at Myriad forever.
Yeah, right,
and,
right.
Those shelves, it's getting more and more lonely.
Right.
And so I felt bad. And I had my little birthday coupon. So I was like, ooh, I'm just going to do it. So I did it. And it's really cool. And right now I only have my Dragonborn miniature in it. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Because he's got a home now.
Yeah. That inspired me, Craig, to we should probably do a segment on running modules, because I think when you run a module as a GM, you can get intimidated into following by the letter of the rule of the module, and you kind of douse your own creativity. And I think the key to modules is to get ideas, but then let the players go where they will, right? And you just kind of kick them back into play once in a while indirectly.
That's one way. That's the way you and I would do it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think there's other ways to that. I think that would be a great segment. Look at that, Born, right in front of you.
There it is. Boom.
A segment
Boom.
is
You'll see it
born.
again someday.
That's
Ooh,
how it
that's
happens.
nice. A segment is born.
All right.
All right. That's me, though.
What about modeling?
Russ, have you been doing any modeling?
Well, so kinda. So,
oh man, this isn't going to be garbage, not modeling, but you just don't want to say no, right?
Well, so here's the thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I did a bunch of painting with my daughter on, and by the way, I have to say, so we painted a bunch more. We now have 13 models painted total of the Fable, of the Fairy Tale battle game there, and loving that game and loving the models particularly. But I started using in earnest now the brushes, Craig. The Guts and Gears?
Games and Gears.
Games and Gears. Thank you. Games and Gears brushes.
Yep.
And they are awesome.
Are these the new ones from Gen Con?
Oh, my God, they're good. In fact, they also gave us a sample starter set, which I've given to my daughter. So my daughter's been borrowing my old brushes for a long time, and I've given her these. And
we should say they gave like a shoebox full of stuff to give it away.
Man,
to give away at the Gen Con.
And I was living on my little, number 7 there, Series 7. Which I loved, but then now these are amazing. So I'm really loving that. But no, the modeling I've been doing lately, Craig, is I have started to prepare. I haven't painted yet, so that's why I'm hedging my bets here.
Okay, you're preparing.
But I've started
models.
to clip and assemble the Halo fleet models.
Ooh.
So my goal here is, because I haven't been able to game very much, so all the gaming I've been doing has been with my kids, because unfortunately recently on our Tuesday gaming night, either my wife's traveling or I've got extra work or something. So, but the old standby as a miniature gamer is, when you can't game with your friends, build some models so next time we get together you can game.
Exactly.
So I decided to do that, Craig. So next time we get together, we're going to try some Halo. That's the plan.
Sounds good. Of course, next Tuesday is auditions, and so I won't be seen for 3 months. But hey, it'll be fine.
Anyway, we'll get there. How about you, Stephen? And you got this new miniature game.
I see something. Yeah, Stephen. I see something on the show notes.
Now let me ask you this:
somebody hacked into the show notes.
Now these are things that you've painted yourself, correct?
No, I did not.
What?
I just wrote in the show notes. It makes great radio when you talk about the show notes that they can't see. But I just wrote Space Gets Away missions, painted minis. Those people who did back the one and only Kickstarter that I did,
not that he's self-promoting, no.
Not that self-promoting, who are who backed for the painted miniatures. I played Space Gets Away missions with my painted miniatures, and they look phenomenal. I don't know if you guys at Gen Con, we actually had one set there.
I actually drooled on them slightly.
I know that you guys.
All my willpower. No, it took all my willpower not to buy the painted set, Stephen.
No, we didn't. Really? We didn't. We're not selling the painted sets.
Well, I know, but I was going to take you out back and ask how much money it was going to require to buy the painted set. But I was looking at them; they are so beautiful. But then I was like, I should just buy it and paint them myself. But the level of detail you had on them were amazing.
You guys are guys who paint your own stuff. But for somebody who is as old as me with my old eyes and no time, they look so good.
They do.
And I'm not even pitching this because I'm going to be selling like lots of them after once the Kickstarter is fulfilled, which by the way is happening in the next couple of weeks. But because I'm only going to have a few left. But it was to me that this whole project came about and has finished, and the painted miniatures that we ended up getting out of China, of all places. I mean, it was just even the printer, even Ludofact, who was based in Germany, and they have a Ludofact Asia, which is essentially an outsourced group. They've got some employees out there, but they outsource something like doing the actual plastics and painting to another group. They look amazing. The shadowing on the figures. So I'm really, really proud of that. So that's my big pitch on paints. I cannot
awesome.
paint. I wish I had the time. I wish I had the patience. I wish I had the eyes to paint. No, I don't. I really give you guys all the props in the world for doing the stuff that you do.
Well, I think anybody who backed that Kickstarter and paid for those is not going to be disappointed at all. They look fantastic. They look really, really good.
Yeah.
Craig, what about you, sir?
Well, I was finishing. I've still got like 2 major projects I want to do for Frostgrave, but I wanted to finish that up before I jumped to another project. And so I finally have snow on my awesome medieval ship and the tower, the tower, the GW tower, and the bridge and the waterfront that I made. So that's all finalized. I got to get a picture of that up on Twitter at some point because I now have a full, really cool looking board. I've got other stuff coming in that I will do eventually. But that snow it's insane. It's incredible. I have it right here so I can even look at it and read the label for you. If you're doing Frostgrave terrain or any kind of terrain where you want snow, Woodland Scenic Soft Flake Snow SN 140 is what you're looking for. You mix it with glue so that it makes a pasty, kind of chunky, oatmeal-y texture. You just scrape it on whatever you want. The glue dries clear and goes away. You're left with these awesome kind of glittery, glistening piles of snow that look awesome. And then I did, I'm not done yet, but I am well along painting an unfortunate number that is almost 70 zombies.
Wow. That's a lot of zombies, Craig.
That's a lot of walking corpses. So
nice.
That is what I'm painting at the moment. And I tweeted a picture out, and someone actually I bought a box of those hospital themed zombies at Gen Con and split it with a couple guys, Nerd Herders Dave and the Sherpa actually, and we each got one each of the sculpts. There's 8 different sculpts. And I took a picture of all almost 70 zombies on my workbench. And I was like, what is this? And I got I got 2 people who thought it was for Age of Sigmar. One who thought that was a great thing and one who thought that was an awful thing. And I was like, oh, sorry guys. Nope, not Age of Sigmar. If I ever do play Age of Sigmar at all, it's going to be with models I already own.
Right.
And have painted.
So what are the zombies for?
I don't know.
Oh,
a little something I'm working
Secret project.
Little project. Little secret project.
I wish I had time for projects like that.
All right.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know what hasn't been happening since I've been working on this? Oh, that would be the editing of my latest book. So don't tell Vincent.
All right. Well, speaking
so anyway,
of
that's that.
Goodness,
so what about Geekly thing?
Yeah. So Mr. Buonocore, what have you been doing for books, TV shows, movies? What are you seeing?
Well, I think my biggest achievement is that I was right on Rapid Fire. Was I actually right?
You were right. You were right. That is an achievement, Stephen. I'll give you 2 for that.
Anger is the driving force behind betrayal trauma.
Which leads to hatred.
You're not going to believe this, but before the show, I was thinking about how much I want to be right once in that achievement section. So the fact that I was right. And I was right over Russ.
I mean, you're no David Weber, but you are in very elite company now.
I don't think that many people have ever been right, actually. So
yeah, it's a small group. It's an elite crowd.
I'm in awe of that.
It's about the same number as people who've been in space. So
that's right.
You're in that group. You're like astronaut.
It's a very elite group,
right?
Not so recent, really. It was earlier in the summer. I thought, Ant-Man. I did see
it was awesome,
fantastic. I know you guys already talked about
very
that.
Good.
I thought that was really well done for not a character that has necessarily big, I don't know, like name appeal. I mean, he's very important, obviously, in the Avengers, but I don't know that the general public knows a lot, and I thought they did a very good job with that whole thing and the tie into the Avengers, and of course he'll become, I'm sure, part of the Avengers at some point and things like that. So good stuff.
Very cool.
I did see, and I'm not sure if we should talk more about this later on in the Lost Chapters, but I did see the opening of Fear of the Walking Dead, the first episode, second episode also.
Yeah, did you like it?
Me too.
That was very good. You guys enjoy the first couple?
I don't do The Walking Dead. I don't like zombie shows.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I mean, I'm not sure how they're not sure where they're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Like, how they're gonna change it, but good start. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, the current Walking Dead is just so good, and the direction they're going with there, and the insanity that's going on there is just so good. So, I mean, it's a good start. I think let's kind of see where it's going to go.
I enjoyed it.
And finally, I think one of my biggest achievements, possibly of my entire lifetime, really what it comes down to, and it's that now. My podcast, and I have my own podcast now, right? Board Games Insider.
Nice. Yes.
You know this? I have my own podcast,
Yep.
Board Games Insider.
I don't know if our listeners are aware, so that's great news. So you have
with Ignacy Shevchik
Yes.
of Portal Games. It's he and I, and we talk about the industry, the board gaming industry. It's a 30-minute podcast, not like you guys who go on for 4 hours. It's
ridiculous.
30 minutes to the point. But even bigger than having that, my own podcast, is that we are now on the Dice Tower Network.
That is
Tom Vassell has allowed us on the Dice Tower. So this, my good friends, this is proof positive that Tom Vassell has gone insane to allow myself on the Dice Tower Network. So
that's true.
Very excited about this.
Although I thought he was insane when he allowed us in the Dice Tower Network. So the fact that we're in there, I don't know if that you should take this as a compliment or not. But but that's awesome, Stephen. So you guys have had this podcast now for how long?
Well, we just recorded our 13th episode.
Nice. Yeah.
We got somebody now to actually do the editing, so that one of us it was Ignacy doing all the editing. So we got Gil Hova, who's also a game designer, to do the editing on the show, so it's actually going to sound better too. And
nice.
Things are going really good, and the response to it has been really good, because I think we're bringing a nice, interesting perspective. Because we are we are insiders on the industry, and we're coming out, and we have 3 segments on the show. Basically, we talk about the news that's going on in the industry. We're giving advice to people, who want to get in the industry, or how the industry is working and things like that. And then we're just saying like what's happening inside the companies in Portal Games and in Stronghold Games. So, 35 minutes to the point, in and out. And it's kind of exciting so that I can get, the chance to talk even more closely to gamers about how things work in the industry itself. Board Games Insider with an S. BoardGamesInsider.com.
.com. All right.
Ooh, .com even.
Yes. How about you, Craig?
Well, I feel like I've been on this lifetime journey of listening to A Song of Ice and Fire.
It is a long book.
Through Audible. It's a long book. It's 5 long books, Russ.
Yes.
So Audible. So Russ, first of all, if you're going to listen to Audible, which is awesome.
You should.
How should a listener link into Audible?
Well, really, the best way to do this is go to the D6generation.com. And on the right-hand side there, you will see a Audible ad. If you click on that ad, it will take you to Audible, and that will take you to a place where if you sign up, you will get the special D6G deal, which gives you a free Audible credit, which is 1 book to download of your choice pretty much from anything in their collection, and you get to keep that book forever even if you choose not to stay with the program. And you also get 30 days trial free as an Audible member, which not only gets you to look through their library, but also set you up with the ability to get some of their deals. And they have some amazing deals on audiobooks almost every month about whether it's you can get a $30 audiobook for $5 or all kinds of great deals going on there. So it's a great way to snap up a bunch of other books as well. But as Craig has pointed out before, and I'm happy to point out also, I've been an Audible subscriber since 2000. And I have hundreds of books on there, and I love it. It makes my commute awesome. And I would definitely highly recommend Audible to anyone who paints or drives or mows the lawn and wants something to listen to.
Mows the lawn.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't realize the app actually just tells you how many books you have total.
Yes.
Like, Russ has been doing it a lot longer than I have, but the fact that I have over 100 is a little scary to me now.
Yep.
That's a lot of audiobooks. So anyway, I'm listening to Dance with Dragons. And again, I'm thinking the issue is, first of all, there is undeniably you can cut out like 300 pages. characters that don't end up going anywhere, they could go away. But I'm really starting to think that the experience those of us who are living through the writing process is with the experience we're having is going to be very different from the experience that people reading it, well, at this rate, 20 years down the road, when they can just pick them up in Audible or in a bookstore and read the whole thing first book to last all in one go. I think they're not going to be as frustrated with book 4 or book 5. And I think that's a little more intriguing. I'm also realizing that I've remembered a lot of things wrong from Dance with Dragons. For some reason, I thought Tyrion had grayscale, which he doesn't. And I thought Tyrion was on a river, and he's not. So apparently I wasn't paying much attention when I was reading about Tyrion, which is odd because he's one of my favorites. But anyway, I'm almost done with that. 5 chapters left and I'll be done. I have no idea what I'm going to do now. But if you are a member of Audible and you want a way to cushion the number of credits that you have, do this, because it takes so long to listen to one of these books that by the time I finish this, I'm going to have 7 credits banked. So that's kind of crazy. So there's that. I am now reading at the express request of a friend of mine, another English teacher, a zombie book called Adrian's Undead Diary by Chris Philbrook. And this is another sort of like the book Silo that was started online in a sort of like a blog entry, and then people really liked it and they were reading it and a publisher picked him up. Chris Philbrook did the same thing with Adrian's Undead Diary, but in my opinion, it was even cooler. The idea he had, he did it as if it was a live running real-time diary of a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, kind of World War Z-esque.
It's a little World War Z-esque, except I've got that later on down because I reread that recently. Right. But it's first person. It's a diary, and it's as if it's a guy's diary, and he posted the blog posts in real time. So, for instance, it starts in the fall. So on October 2nd, he uploads the October 2nd entry. And then a week and a half later, he downloads the next entry, and it's for a week and a half later. So on the actual dates, he was downloading the dates. So people who had discovered him right at the beginning actually were experiencing this in real time, which is a really kind of cool experience.
Wow.
Cool. A publisher picked him up. He has now written and published 8 novels. He's from New Hampshire. He worked in a school in New Hampshire, and he has since left education to write full time. Not that I'm jealous or anything. So it's very exciting. The only thing and this could be because I'm an English teacher, I don't know, but there's a lot of like typos and stuff that I'm like, and it's kind of
gives it the blog feeling.
I guess. I don't know.
Go for that blog
if that was its intention, then it doesn't have enough. Because there's just enough for me to go, wow, this isn't really very well edited. And I asked my friend, because I feel bad saying that, because it's a really great story and the character's really neat. It reminds me a little bit of Monster Hunter International in that, like, hi, I'm a night watchman. Oh, I also happen to have this kick-ass military background that makes me ideal for surviving in a terrible situation. But other than that, the characters are really neat. There's little segues with other characters. I'm really enjoying the story, but I'm finding enough of the typos that I'm going every now and then, and I would feel bad if I recommended this and then one of the listeners went and listened to it, or didn't listen to it. It's not on Audible, but was reading it. And kind of have the same sort of hesitant reaction. When I talked to my friend Mark, he said, yeah, he noticed it too, but it's almost completely gone in the second book and on. So I think what happens is in the second book, when he had a professional editor, everything went smoothly, and that's great. I got the omnibus edition, which is the first 4 of the 8 books. I got it for $8 on Amazon for my Kindle. So if you're looking for a cool zombie story and a sort of a unique take on it, or at least in my perspective, from my point of view, I don't remember seeing it like this journal format before. Adrian's Undead Diary is cool. And then I did reread World War Z before that, and that was really exciting. That is such an amazing, awesome book. I just can't say enough about it. Max Brooks, phenomenal book, movie. different thing.
Yeah, movie's a different thing.
The book is fantastic.
The book is phenomenal.
The book
really
is the book will someday be a classic. I absolutely guarantee it.
I did not read the book, but I listened to the book.
Oh, that's awesome too.
The audio drama.
It really brings. I mean, there's so many different characters, right, in that book.
They did it as an audio drama, and it's fantastic with different actors, including Alan Alda, and it blows away. It's the way to experience it. And the movie, I don't know why the movie's even called World War Z.
I did not watch it because I saw what it was like, and I'm like, this is not the book. It has nothing to do with the book. Why would I want to watch this movie that's not the book? Maybe the movie's good, but it isn't the book. And I thought that book was off the hook.
Agreed.
Just so good.
There are very small chunks of dialogue taken directly from the book in the movie, and the fact that the guy works for the UN and that the almost unseen narrator of World War Z theoretically worked for the UN is really the only tenuous connection. And so it's which is unfortunate because you can tell from the audiobook what a kick-ass movie they could have made.
Yeah.
But it would have been a little more intellectually demanding. It wouldn't have been just sit back and watch things blow up for an hour and a half. You would have had to be, I mean, the story builds over all these different interviews. So I don't think it would ever have been a blockbuster, but it would have been an amazing movie that would have eventually reached classic level also.
I don't think it could have been a movie. I think it needs to be a TV series. I think what we're learning is that
that's true.
These complicated books, like Game of Thrones, need to be TV series.
That's a very good point. I think that it would have made a great, not series or short series or something like that on TV. That would have worked well like that.
I think so too.
Maybe it'll do. Maybe they can. Maybe they can do that.
Might. I mean, look at all of the reboots that they're doing.
Yeah, right.
Nothing's out of out of possibility.
HBO could do a great job with that. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And that's me. What about you, Russ?
All right. So real quick, first of all, I did just finish Prudence. So Prudence is the Gail Carriger series I've been reading forever now. It seems like she actually has 3 series that all take place in the same universe. Finishing School, which is the prequel series written for young adult readers. That's like 4 books or 3 books and a 4th book's coming out this fall. That was great. Then her original series, which now stands as the middle series, which is the Parasol Protectorate series, which I got through, which was fantastic. And I've talked before that the first 2 books are a little bit romancy. The romancy stuff completely falls out in books 3 through 5, and it is great. And then in the Prudence, which is the first book in her new series, the Custard Protocol, Custard Protocol, is my favorite. The setup, what they've done with this is awesome. It's my favorite of the 3 series so far, possibly because it builds on the other 2 so well and brings it all together. Possibly because also now basically it's a captain of an airship the entire time, an old dirigible style airship, which is just awesome. So really loving it. Again, they got the humor, like Douglas Adams type humor, mixed in with just a really compelling storytelling in a steampunk alternate reality, a Victorian era, which is just cool. So really loving that. But since I finished all of her books and waiting for new ones, I had to switch to something else. And as I mentioned before, I had read the first Witcher book, which is The Last Wish. Now, these are the books that are by, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Craig, you want to take a shot at this author's name here? It's
Andrzej Sapkowski.
There you go. So, Polish author, I believe, wrote these books.
So there's Z's in there and everything.
Yes, originally in Polish. They've been translated, but you can't tell, as far as I'm concerned, because the narrator is fantastic. If his name is Peter Kenny, the narrator on these audiobooks. He's narrated all 4 of these books now. And Peter, imagine, for those of you listening to the show, imagine Owen narrating a book, because he sounds just like Owen. It's amazing. It's really, really good. Good at all the voices, good at all that stuff. The series is sort of interesting. So the prequel, The Last Wish, is actually essentially a book of short stories. There are some themes that build, but it's essentially a bunch of short story chapters that kind of add up to something interesting at the end. But it's really a bunch of short stories. But now they just recently translated the 3 books of the main series, which is called The Witcher Saga. Book 1 is The Blood of Elves. All 3 now came out on Audible over the summer. And so I've started listening to the book Blood of Elves. Awesome. This is easily one of my best favorite fantasy series ever. It is high fantasy, but it's done in such an interesting universe that it's great. The fact there's a video game based on it will be really rewarding for video game players, but you need to know nothing. The video games are taken from the books, not the other way around. So it's not like Halo where you read these books and part of the stories in the video game that you don't know. These are the books that inspired the video game. And these are awesome. Just great storytelling, amazing dialogue, very witty, lots of humor, but also very dark. Just really, really good stuff. Interesting political stuff happening there. I cannot recommend these books highly enough. Check them out. And the fact that this gentleman wrote this stuff and English is not his native language and the dialogue he gets in here is really, really impressive. Whoever did the translation really rocked it.
Nice.
So highly recommend.
Cool. Maybe that'll be what I do when I finish with Song of Ice and Fire.
I would do that. Now, for television, real quick, finished up Killjoys. Love the ending. Need more. Just found out they renewed it, so awesome.
Yeah.
Second of all, I did try Sense8.
You were talking about it like you loved it last episode.
No, I got 2 more episodes in. It's just a little bit too weird for me. Yeah, it's a little too weird.
Weird in a grown-up sort of way? Because I heard that's how weird it was. It was getting weird in a grown-up sort of
a little bit of everything. You know what?
Yeah.
It's almost like weird for weird's sake.
Oh, I hate weird for weird. I hate anything for anything.
There's not enough plot. Like there's definitely a plot.
Got to be able to justify everything.
Yeah, it's they're spending a lot of time on stuff that there's a lot of politics in there, which is fine, but it's almost becoming about the politics instead of the politics being a backdrop for the story. So it's almost like, here's our political statement. Political statement, 45 minutes political statement, 15 minutes of story. It's like, no, that's not how you tell a story. So that's kind of where it went for me. Mr. Robot, however, if you want to watch a show that actually does do a good job with political statement, but actually has an amazing plot, really amazing plot twists, and is one of the few shows ever made that does hacking correctly, Mr. Robot is where it's at. It follows the story of a hacker who and he's just almost I can't tell you anything else about it because everything about the show is not what it seems. Everything about it is not what it seems. Highly recommend it, Mr. Robot. It will make you insecure about the world you live in.
Oh, great.
But, you know.
I don't think I need that any more than I already am.
But I really, really enjoying it. And as a tech guy myself, most of the exploits and hacks he does are reasonably feasible. And it's a pretty good show. So I'm really digging that as well. And finally, I need to do a call out. I do this very often for my listeners here, but I need help, listeners. So my daughters and I, whenever Nicole travels, we order pizza and we watch a show together. And for months and months and months, we've been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, the series, and then we watched Korra, which was the sequel, one generation later of The Last Airbender. And I have to say, The Last Airbender, Avatar, not the movie, but the TV show, the animated TV show, is a fantastic show. And it's probably one of the best written cartoons for family. It just works on every single level. It's a really, really great show. And we're having a hard time finding a similar caliber show because my kids are at an age now, they're 13 and 11, where they want more from their cartoons than just, whatever. And they don't want to watch the tween stuff on the Disney Channel. So we're either watching adult shows like Avengers or something, but we're through all those, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or we're trying to find something like A Last Airbender, but we're not finding it. It's either anime, Japanese anime, which is pretty good, but it's usually dark and a little more grown up, and I can't find something. So if anybody knows of anything that's similar to Avatar: The Last Airbender that I should check out, please email me or something, because I'd love to get another good show like that. We just enjoyed that so much. I'd love to find another show like that.
All right. Well, there you go.
There you have it. Is that achievements?
That is achievements.
Sounds like achievements.
So here's the final score. Ripley has 147 victory points. Hicks has 132. I have 117. And Hudson has 87. That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. What the frick are we gonna do now? Put the game away.
That wolf in a cave noise means it's time to talk about our friends at wolflair.com over at Lone Wolf Development. And these are the guys that make really my favorite gaming software. Let's be honest.
They make the gaming software that makes gaming fun.
Exactly right. Now
or funner.
This isn't the software that you play like a video game. This is software that supports your favorite pen and paper games, your favorite analog games, if you will. So whether it's the game, the software that started it all for Craig and I, Army Builder, which is just a fantastic way to build your favorite armies and your favorite miniature war games fast. Doesn't matter how complex the system is. Doesn't matter how many points you're playing. Doesn't matter if you're switching armies 15 times. And here's the thing about Army Builder, because it supports pretty much every single miniature war game out there. It's one tool you got to learn, and you can build any army really, really quick. So if you're like Craig and I, bouncing around from game system to game system, not a problem. You got your one tool, you crank your army out there. It reminds you all the rules for list building are built in there. A lot of the stats for your models are in there. It prints out a great quick reference guide for you. It even exports it now to PDF so you can see it on your iPad or whatever. Really fantastic.
Really
tool.
just facilitates. It makes that part of the game that used to be onerous and annoying a cool part of the game all on its own.
And then
you can spend hours doing that, but that's not all, is it, Russ?
They've now become also essential. Now they got their name made in miniature wargaming, but now they've become an essential element of anyone who's a role player. Really, if you're a role playing gamer, you need to try out their two other tools. One, Hero Lab, which is a great way to create your characters again in a wide variety of systems. So no matter what your RPG, they've got a tool set or a set of files you can plug right into the thing and be able to crank your characters out really easily. If you're a Pathfinder player, it's even better because they have so much great adaptation for Pathfinder and a really, really cool iPad version of the app for Pathfinder as well. But then if you're a GM, Craig, what do you want to be using?
Oh, you want to be using Realmworks.
Oh, yes.
Realmworks. It's all about the realm. It's all about the realm. All Realmworks.
That's just like that. In fact, it has now become indispensable, just like Army Builder was to me when I play my miniature games. Yep. Realmworks now has become indispensable for me as a GM. I put all my campaigns in there now, whether it's a quick one-off, whether it's a campaign I'm playing where I'm making it up on the fly with my players, or I'm running several different kinds. So some campaigns where we kind of make it up as we go. And I got some campaigns where I put hours and hours before the game starts and I have all this detail and background. I have one of those crazy campaigns and a bunch of little quick ones I'm playing with my kids. But all of them, I put right into Realmworks and it works great, whether I'm cranking things out in real time while we're playing or whether I'm making up detailed notes. I want to make sure I can find all that detail in the middle of the game and not lose anything.
Nobody does anything like this.
No, it's
amazing.
Fantastic. So if you want to check out all these great tools, where you want to go, Craig?
You want to go to wolflair.com.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present...
Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep.
Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, and now I'm relegating to announcing this
Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hey everyone, welcome back to App of the Ep. And this time around, I've got one for the Xbox One from Xbox Arcade here. And this game, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this title? Hang on, here we go. Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. Yeah, this game is fantastic. Do not let its cuteness and its crazy title fool you, or even the premise, which is, of course, that love powers everything, but then the love goes missing, and you must take the last love-powered spaceship and save the day by rescuing little bunnies trapped throughout the universe. Yeah, I know, it sounds weird, but the gameplay is fantastic. Basically, the premise here is, if you are a board gamer and you like games like Space Cadets, this game's going to be right up your alley because as you command this spaceship, it's a couch co-op, perfect for two players. You and your buddy or daughter or son sit on the couch and you each control a cute little alien as they walk around the inside, sort of a cutaway view of a spaceship, and you man different stations. And you'll try to man the different various guns to blast incoming aliens, or you'll man the engines to make sure the spaceship is moving properly while your friend mans a particular gun, or maybe you got to run over and activate the shields in the right angle, or new armor settings, and all kinds of cool upgrades your ship can get. Really, really clever game. Very, very unique. Fantastic co-op. You know, couch co-ops are really the best way to play video games with family members, and it's too bad there's not more of them. So, again, very unique. One of the more unique gaming experiences I've had a long time in video games. Check it out. It is Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time on Xbox One.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the Ep, a segment in which,
Hey, less of that. More just getting on with the show.
Seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back, guys. And so we have an incredible luminary of the gaming industry with us.
Oh, he's lit up
the
already.
Person. He's lumen something.
Yeah, right.
In the person of Stephen Buonocore. And
2,000 lumens. That's a way of doing a projector, right?
Right.
Yeah, or, you know, 2,000 candles seems a bit high. But anyway, so we thought a lot has been going on in the industry over the past year, 12 months or so. A lot of changes, and it's always cool to get an insider's look at what sort of we on the outside, we see, you know, this guy might merge with that guy or announce a partnership, or all of a sudden this guy's doing Kickstarter who said he would never do it, or this company's just stopped doing it. So it's always cool to, once we get a industry big boy in the third chair, to kind of grill him a little bit and see what's going on. You know, sort of a titillating sort of experience, so that we can see what's going on behind the curtains, so to speak.
Yes,
so
stroke a little to the left.
Stephen, you're so awesome that we were going to ask you what's going on in the gaming industry.
Yes.
It's a big time.
It is a big time.
It really is in board gaming industry.
So,
it's
Steven,
it's tremendous.
So would you just, before we get to some details here, I wanted to ask you one off the top of my head, which is, you know, we still see a lot of like the board game renaissance, right? People, bloggers are still constantly writing about that. A lot of bloggers that are only tangentially related to our industry, actually, like video game bloggers, are like, well, I think it's time to write about board games now. It feels like it's growing. So, would you say that's still happening? Do you feel like the industry's still at a high growth rate? Has it, now that Barnes and Noble and Target and everybody are carrying some of the major, companies, and all of them, actually, it seems like every company's carried at these places now. All the ones you see at Gen Con and stuff are there now, a couple of weeks after or whatever. Do you feel like the growth is there? Is it plateauing? What's your feeling in that area?
It's not even coming close to a plateau. It's we've had year over year double-digit growth in this industry, and in fact, if anything, we're talking about an acceleration right now. 2014 and into 2015 was amazing on like every level you can possibly think of. I mean, from a perspective of Stronghold Games, it was incredible. I just keep like going 100% and then, or 100% growth or 50% growth in almost every one of the last few years. So just really, really big numbers, but everybody's reporting that kind of thing. Take a look at Gen Con. I mean, like, or any of the major conventions. Every one of them is reporting tremendous growth year after year. What did we come up with this year at Gen Con? It was 61,000 attendees.
Yeah, right. Unique attendees, yep.
61,000 unique attendees. And I think it was almost 200,000 turnstiles, which is kind of a dumb number, so we shouldn't even mention it. But 61,000 unique people. Right. It is so overgrown. We can take a whole show on talking about how badly Gen Con is now destroyed Indianapolis. It just can't grow anymore in that city, which is, it's driving people crazy. But on the good side of that is the fact that it has grown essentially 9-10% per year every year for the last number of years, and that's just not a bunch of people who are in the know, who are rushing over to Indianapolis, which is not like a hub. It's not like it's Las Vegas or something like that. They're taking their vacation time and they're rushing over to this place, in the middle of nowhere, and saying, "Hey, I want to get together with people." And it's growing like crazy, and the demographic is growing. Everything about it is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know the number of women that are at these cons all of a sudden?
Right.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, it's no longer like a male-centered thing that we're in, and that's wonderful.
It really isn't. I remember when I didn't start going that long ago. I mean, my first Gen Con was well after we started the podcast. So I'm thinking 2010, 2011, something like that, 2010 probably. So that's 5 years ago, which in this grand scale of how long Gen Con's been around is really not that long, right?
Right.
And yet I remember when I first went, you're right, Stephen, it was mostly men and few families, right? So you'd see a family, but it was more like the unicorn. Like, oh, look, there's something about the family. It's not cool, right? Now is a lot of I'm bringing my family, but there's a lot of families there. I'm not in the minority anymore. to the point where Craig's like, the strollers are in the way, right? And there's a lot more women there too, I'd say, again, because you have families, but you also have women going by themselves or in groups, and it's much, you're right, the demographics huge. What I wanted to ask you too, Stephen, because we can easily turn this into a segment of conventions, and I don't really want to. I really want to. But is it to the point where you find your initial print runs of games are just bigger than they would have been like 5 years ago because the market's larger?
The short answer is yes. They are. They are getting bigger. As you know, I'm doing more games because gamers are demanding more interesting new things. This year has been ridiculous for Stronghold. I mean, I did
you guys have had
17 new titles in 1 year, including expansions. It was just ridiculous, an absolutely ridiculous number to think about doing at any other time than the current. Mm-hmm. So, short answer is yes. It's just there's just more demand out there. And more people wanting new things to talk about and to have in their closet. So, yeah, it is really another, the golden. We've talked about that for years. Yeah. We're in the golden age of board gaming, and it certainly is continuing.
So, I think one thing that if you look at industries in general, and those people who do, and I don't pretend to be a business pundit in any way, but if you look at these things, one of the things you tend to notice as industries mature and become larger is that you do get a lot more, things start to consolidate, right? You get mergers and acquisitions because you had a bunch of smaller, startup companies or smaller businesses, and as they grow, they either get bought out by the big boys in other industries that have decided they want to play here too, or they merge to form a more powerful organization because, with more resources because they need to have bigger distributions or demand's getting higher and their small organization can't meet it or whatever. So, and I think we're starting to see that, right? So we've seen quite a few mergers in the last, I would say, 8 to 12 to 16 months, or even shorter than that. Mm-hmm. What are some of the big mergers you've been watching, and what do you think they mean to the industry?
Yeah, that's really, really a tremendous topic, and the fact that we're seeing these big mergers in this really what ends up to be a cottage industry that is just expanding very quickly is a very, very interesting sign. And I'm telling everybody out there, and there's always so many naysayers about things, this is a very good sign for an industry. There's two times when companies merge. Companies merge in an industry when things are not going well, and you see that a given company might have something of interest, but they have not been able to exploit it. And maybe it's the economy that's hurting. A bigger company with more power will grab that because they want that IP, they want that technology, they want that something. They'll use it, and then they can hopefully run with it. But the other time that, and if you think about that analogy, it's really not going to be as much in this industry anyway, because we don't have like a technology that's important to somebody who needs to gobble up. In this industry, we're seeing these companies that are merging because they're very strong companies, and another company wants to bring them aboard and utilize them to expand and do bigger and better things. This started about a year ago, a little more maybe at this point, with the Days of Wonder being acquired by Asmodee. Right. And that was tremendous. At the time when that occurred, I literally said, this is the biggest news in this industry. You've got this great company, Days of Wonder is truly one of the marquee companies of the industry. Yeah, right. Year after year, they're bringing out one great game per year. What a great business model, by the way, they've always had, right? Right. To me, I have to bring out 17 games to survive. They bring out one great game a year.
They were kind of like the Apple of the board game industry, right? They just do one, but it's perfect. Look at the lines of the box. It's like
they do one great thing, and it's worked out so well for them. And they get acquired by the biggest company in the industry, Asmodee. And it was like, wow, nothing's ever going to get bigger than this news. Right. And guess what? 3 or 4 months after that? Fantasy Flight Games, the second biggest company in this industry, merges with Asmodee, the biggest company. These things were so critical in highlighting and pointing out that we are in a huge growth in this industry, and big, powerful companies are seeing things that are happening, and they're wanting more of that. They've got a lot of cash on the sidelines, and they want even more of that kind of stuff. So they're going out there and finding the great companies.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly right, and I think that's really. I agree with you. I think it's a sign of a healthy, growing industry, and I think it's also a good sign. I think I'm not an industry expert, but I think it's a good sign to see the companies doing this in the industry. So what I would be more worried about is if external forces were coming in and sort of gobbling them up and trying to, let's say, Microsoft woke up one day and said, we need a miniature game company because, miniature gaming is a thing now, and they just bought somebody. But instead what you're seeing is the companies are not doing that. The industry companies are actually emerging themselves, and you're seeing external huge mega companies coming in and licensing with these guys, right? So you've got, Disney and Star Wars properties being licensed by Fantasy Flight Games. You have the same things happening. You have Spartan Games, a small miniature gaming company having a license from Microsoft. So you're seeing these major licenses coming down, and I think it's happening more and more frequently. Look at the large licenses that Gale Force 9 gets. I mean, it's becoming more and more common, and these are major, and they're being carried in major stores, major retail outlets. So it's definitely we've been watching it slowly happen, but it's just becoming more and more common. And I still am shocked when I see some of these games, these really, very gamery games in a lot of cases at, Target and Walmart and Barnes and Noble. It just really freaks me out.
Well, it kind of started that, with Amazon, getting bigger and bigger and bigger into games. So that they're the essentially biggest retailer of all because they've got so much reach. And then the other, the brick and mortars who also have online stores as well. It's like looking at the trends and saying, my God, these guys are selling a heck of a lot of these weird, expensive, for the normal price of things you find in a store. Expensive games. Maybe we should grab a piece of this too. So Barnes and Noble has been exploding on what they are doing, even in their brick and mortar and online. Target is bringing in more games into their store and really expanding their Target.com presence in board games as well. Everybody's kind of waking up to the fact that board games and sitting around a table is actually something that people want to do. That whole being social around the table and not just sitting there with your iPhones and looking at them, and not concentrating on anybody else. It's something that people are wanting to do because, in essence, we are social animals to begin to, in the end, we're social animals. This is what we want to end up doing, and it's growing and growing. Yeah,
we should mention too, before we leave the topic of mergers, that our friends at Plaid Hat Games just had an event right during Gen Con, right?
That was, absolutely not to be overlooked is the fact that a small company, let's call Plaid Hat a smallish company, they, 5 years, 6 years now in the industry, all of a sudden, and have some marquee titles and doing phenomenal job, they get bought by a large and up-and-coming company, F2Z Games, who are the parent company of Z-Man Games. So they had bought Z-Man about 4 years ago at this point, I guess, and now are buying another huge, another great company on the small side in the industry, and buying them for all of the brain power essentially in Plaid Hat, the development. They're going to be using Plaid Hat as a development house going forward. And I give huge amount of credit to Colby and what he's done there over at Plaid Hat. And I think that they have become a phenomenal company. And F2Z, the Z-Man company, they looked at that, saw that, and now they've purchased them. Again, another sign that great companies are looking at other good companies and bringing them into their fold.
Yeah. And I think Plaid Hat's a good segue into one of the other topics I wanted to talk about, which was, for a while we were watching component quality go better and better, right? And I think a lot of folks who play board games are kind of like, can this continue? Can the component quality keep going up? I mean, at some point, you're going to hit the $100. I mean, for a while there, it was getting crazy, right? In the mid 2000s, it was like there was the $100 game and the $110 game, and but then it kind of pulled back. But still, the component quality is still going, and to the point now where you're getting a lot of miniatures in your games. And I think the reason I mentioned Plaid as a segue is they've been doing a lot of interesting work. If you think of their Mice and Mystics line, and their recently announced Tail Feathers, which they showed their models for at Gen Con, which looked fantastic, and now they're saying it's a miniature skirmish game set in the Mice and Mystics universe, which is brilliant and fantastic, and my girls are going to flip out. But it looks really great too. And are we still seeing this trend, Stephen? Are you still feeling like, and you guys also, when you brought back Survive and other things, you've always been very strong on really awesome components and just great looking games. I have to say, when I played Space Attack the other day. I got it at Gen Con. I was so excited because it's nobody
Survive.
Survive Space Attack.
That's all right. Just want to make sure we get it right.
Yes, thank you.
Survive Space Attack.
Thank you. That's what we have guests on to keep me honest. So Survive Space Attack, right? So got that at Gen Con because you had it there, and B, it's Survive, which is great. And it's got rules updated by the Engelsteins, which is, a must-buy. And then I knew it was going to have awesome components, and it did. It had these amazing wooden meeples, and I'm sitting there playing it at our weekly game night next to a bunch of folks playing Vino, actually. And they keep coming over, and they're like, "Oh my God, is that a meeple turret? Is that a meeple space? Is that a meeple space fighter? Is that a meeple?" And they just couldn't stop playing with. I'm like, "Stop moving the pieces around. We're trying to play a game here." So great game. Are you still seeing it? But it's not just you guys, right? I mean, everybody seems to be kicking up the components to the point now where it's really a key part of it. Is that you guys still seeing that happening? Are you still seeing the industry?
No, absolutely. I mean, and there's a number of reasons for spiraling component qualities spiraling upward. They keep getting better and better. You can do better, more interesting tooling now with wood that you couldn't do 10 or more years ago. I'll point to my game Medina that I brought out at the end of last year. Medina is you're building a city, from nothing. You're putting pieces on the board. You're putting walls and you're putting building pieces, and they're all carved out wooden pieces that you're building this city with. And you couldn't. And the original version this is a reprint. The original version of the game looked great, but now we were able to do it even better because in 2014 at the time, tooling can just get that much better. And now, similarly with injection molding and plastics. I mean, we can do those plastics now with better and better quality at somewhat of a lower cost. But of course, we're throwing more things in, so the MSRP continues to go up as well. So bringing out this year, it's sort of it might be my epitaph on my tombstone. It's basically that's away missions, because this game I put so much time into this game. 102 plastic miniatures with 16 different sculpts in this box. The third game in the Space Cadets line. It is so. I'm so excited that I've done this game, because I have the copies. You got a copy right over at Gen Con yourself, didn't you?
Yes, for sure.
And I was so excited that we finally got this game done in the vision that we had. And it's possible now because of all of those printers that are out there that are able to get you the kind of quality that you want. So I do not see any cessation in bringing high quality games out. There's sort of a cap, I guess. You can't continue to go up, but we're going to see them stay at a very, very high quality going forward. And I think that's just part of where the industry's at, where everyone's going to expect to have great components in any game that they buy.
Yeah, it just feels that way. And I think the addition of miniatures too is happening a lot. We'll talk about that more in a bit. But so I think the components are amazing. Craig, are you still noticing the component quality going up?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think the bar has been raised and people's expectations are high, like you said. Yeah. Well, I think unless you're making a statement about stepping back to cubes and such, and you're doing it on purpose as I don't think like going in, that's an option unless you kind of preemptively like make a point of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, let's go ahead and jump in on the miniature side of things. So we're seeing also, I think, a lot more hybrid well, I used to call them hybrid, but I don't think I can call them hybrid anymore because it seems like it's becoming a standard now. Pioneered by companies like Cool Mini or Not and Plaid Hat and others are getting really great miniatures right inside their board games. What do you think about that, Steven? I mean, as you know, we miniature gamers, I'm like, I want to paint them now, and what's actually happening to me is I'm finding some board games, like my daughter and I took a break from painting War Machine models, and now we're painting up all the figures from Fairy Tale Fantasy Battles game. We're like, well, we got to do all this stuff. So it's definitely a shifting landscape there. That seems like a whole different set of core competencies for game companies.
Getting into plastic miniatures, it was something that I've always wanted to do. So with Space Cadets Away missions, I was able to go there. So that's just an exciting thing. And again, since there's a whole bunch of things at the same time going on here. We talked about the increasing demand, right? The increasing size of the market. So therefore, the print runs can go up. So therefore, you can do more interesting things in a game and sort of amortize the cost of doing so over a larger print run. And what I mean by that is, when you do a big plastics game, there is a certain fixed cost that goes into that. You have the molds that are used to inject the plastic to create the miniatures. So that mold is going to cost you $5,000. Let's just say $5,000 for each one of those molds. So if you're doing 1,000 units of a game, well, that's a really high cost. That you then have to say, okay, I have to spend $5,000 just to do 1,000 units of this game, plus the cost of actually do the rest of the game. But if you're doing 5,000 units of the game, that's a smaller cost per unit that you're amortizing. So all of these things together are enabling us to now put plastic miniatures in the game at a reasonable price point, for us to do it, and then for us to pass on to the gamers. So, yeah, it's a very good trend that we can have those cool things in the game because, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that just wants to see chrome in any game that I buy, and if I can do it in my own games, that I'm bringing out, all the better.
Yeah. So the one area that we're still weak in from all these component increases is some companies still refuse to do box inserts. I'm not going to name any names, but their initials are FFG. But please, industry, make that the next thing. Can I have just awesome box control in all my games? That would be great.
So you're the kind of guy that wants to have, I don't know, a plastic insert into every one of their games?
I will pay. Here's how my game purchasing cycle works. Okay, so awesome new game comes out, and it's actually not just, I shouldn't throw FFG under the bus, because it's also any of these guys cranking out miniatures too, right, in their games now. Because essentially what happens is the way it's packaged, the miniatures are generally supplied in such a way that they will not fit back in the box once the game is opened, right? And or the obligatory expansion required with the game, because now it's got 2 more groups that you need to have your miniatures for or whatever, don't fit back in. So there's no way to store it. So usually what happens is if it's not a miniature game, not a game with miniatures, I will buy it, but then I'll have to run off to the local store that sells sporting fishing supplies and buy all the plano and then organize the game, because the tokens don't go everywhere and everything else, right? Or then I will go to our friends at Battle Foam or something and order a bunch of foam so I can organize all the miniatures. It's a very rare game. There are some good ones out there. Yours are among them, Stephen, where they actually come with all the stuff I need and everything stores back in, like Survive Space Attack does a great job of that. But there are others that do not, and it's just like, for me it's a high point of frustration. I am always, my favorite, you have to give you kudos for this, Pictomania, Stephen.
Pictomania has got
best box insert ever. It's got a special spot for the sponges, dude.
It is a particularly great box insert, which I can take absolutely no credit for.
It is awesome.
No credit for whatsoever, because the Pegasus Spiele, the German publisher, and I'm the co-publisher on that game, created that, and I was very impressed with it. And I am the like anti-box insert. I'm not somebody who cares about box inserts at all. I just don't.
But so you want? But see, the problem with these the really. So I guess in a very light, quick game where there's not a lot of components, fine. But like, think about the organization you have to do for like Panamax. If I had no box control in there, Steven, it's going to be a giant mess to organize all that stuff. That's all I'm saying. I'm not,
we gave you baggies.
I know. But still, even baggies. I'm sorry. It's out there. Okay. I'm just putting it out there. I love all you guys, but this is something we got to fix as an industry. Can we just work together on this?
It's actually a hard one because those inserts are quite expensive to put in. You have to create molds for them.
Yeah.
And then you actually have to, those plastic injection on the vacuum form is actually expensive. So you pick and choose your battles with those things. Did you like the one that's in away missions? Did you actually open?
I do. Yes.
Missions?
No, that is awesome. See,
it's a pretty cool one, right?
Yes.
You have the whole side.
No, it's good.
There's a side box, so to speak,
No,
right, where all
awesome.
the miniatures go and all the plastic kind of pieces go. It's not so perfect vacuum form, though. There are spaces for quite a few of the things, and then at the bottom underneath it, you put like the cubes and the miniatures that don't require to be perfectly standing.
I'm just saying, it took me. How long are we doing this podcast for, Craig? When did we start this thing?
2008.
It took since 2008 to get most game companies to have full color manuals with a table of contents and index.
This is the new crusade.
So now
this is Russ's new crusade.
This is a new. I got to keep going. I've got to be fighting for the consumer's rights, Steven. This is what I'm doing.
He's fighting.
I'm every gamer here.
Fight.
I'm just every gamer.
How about if I put great game in the box instead of great?
Please, every gamer.
All right. Sorry, just a little sidetrack there. We're back.
You had a sidetrack. Got it.
So before we run out of time, because this is great, but
you don't want to miss anything.
Let's talk a little about the future. Craig, I need a future. I need an echoey future. Echoey future.
What lies ahead?
Yeah, now this is not our prediction episode, which you do every year. This is different. So this is where do you see? It's kind of funny because I think a lot of us kind of said, well, board games are starting to do great, and this is back in the early, late 2000s, because there's a recession on. And what happens in a recession? Well, people, don't want to spend lots of money on lots of things, but a board game's nice because it's pricey, but you can entertain a lot of people for many hours, and it's a great thing to do on the, it's a very affordable family night out, if you will, and you can do it many nights. But now that we're in a recovery and things are getting better and people having disposable income again, but the industry's still rising, that's probably not the reason anymore. We've generally it sounds like a great growth thing here. So how do you think the industry is going to change and evolve in the coming years? What do you think the next big trends are? Obviously, after we get the whole box insert thing worked out, what do you think the next big thing is going to be?
You want me first?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
period, dude.
You're it. You're the industry expert.
No, I need an expert. If I could predict the future, I'd be a millionaire right now, which I'm obviously not because I'm in this crazy industry. But the one thing that I'm seeing that I believe is going to continue moving forward is that North America in general is waking up. United States, Canada, we're waking up to board games. So when Stronghold Games started in 2000 or late 2009 and into 2010, we had this small market and we were trying to eke our way, find those reprints and stuff, but it is expanding so much, and that expansion is coming from right here, right under our feet. Germany, Europe in general. But the Netherlands, the number one, I thought it was Germany, but I heard recently the number one per capita board gaming and consumption in the world is actually in the Netherlands, followed closely by Germany. Right. So Europe has had this culture for the longest time, and they consume board games like crazy per capita, and it's a very big industry there. And when the Spiel des Jahres is won over there, they end up selling 300,000 units of a game, in Germany and in general, in Europe essentially, but mostly in Germany. All of a sudden, the U.S., Canada, we're waking up and saying, wow, this is an interesting thing that people are doing, and we want to be part of it. And our country is larger in population, so there's no reason that we shouldn't be consuming more and more games. So I think that my prediction for the future is that we're going to see more and more and more growth in the industry, America, Canada waking up to this more. I mentioned it before. Many more women coming in, because where are we going to get most of that growth? Is it's been male dominated anyway. Now men are bringing in their significant others, and women are jumping into this, and they're accepting it, and that's where we're going to see more and more growth going forward. Lame prediction, but that's my prediction.
No, I like it.
A huge amount of growth, and it's going to be coming from North America mostly.
I think it makes sense. Craig, do you have any thoughts on where the industry's heading?
I am clueless, and you forced me to do it for the predictions episode, and you can't force me to do it
Wow.
here.
See, I tried, people.
I'll give you this.
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
Oh, good.
What's that?
That was detailed.
That was a raspberry, my friend.
Oh man!
Wow. So,
You like that? Did you like that?
That was great.
Here's another. There you go.
That was a Bronx cheer.
That's what that was.
Zach.
Well, I'm curious to see where the industry's heading as well. I think so. So for many years, I think Rafe had an interesting thought or prediction, or for a while on the show, which was just that at some point there's going to be board game saturation, and when that happens, I don't know what he felt was going to happen, but I think he just sort of felt like there'd be enough games and people would just sort of pull back a little bit. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think the growth's going to continue for the foreseeable future. For the next 3 to 5 years, I think there's still a lot going on there, and I think you're right, Stephen. I think it's still growing.
What about Kickstarter?
What about Kickstarter? Should we?
What about Kickstarter?
Yeah, so
Kickstarter?
So it's Kickstarter.
How high can we go?
What about Kickstarter?
Well, what about so Stephen? Do you think it's still? Has it peaked? Is it gonna peak? Is it in decline now? Is it just
There seems to be a couple high-profile problem cases now that are out there.
I've been predicting the death of Kickstarter since the beginning of Kickstarter.
Right.
And people have misquoted me, mostly misquoted me as being like anti-Kickstarter. I'm not. I did my one. It proved the model that I could do very big games. That was Space Gateway missions, and I didn't want to do anymore. No, it's a lot of work doing that. I have a lot of other things to spend my energy on. So I'm.
Is it stressful?
It's extremely stressful doing Kickstarter. People actually want to like develop the game with you. No. The game is the game. I have the game. I'm a professional publisher. That's what I do. So I'm going to give you the game, and let's do that. And we can talk about getting more and more stuff in there, because that's kind of what Kickstarter's about: the components and more and stretch goals and stuff. But the game is the game. So I think that Kickstarter has probably has been a part of this entire growth cycle. It's not only that the Americans are waking up to this board game thing, but Kickstarter has brought that into almost more of a mainstream, because Kickstarter is not just a board game thing. Board games happen to be one of the larger portions of it, maybe. But I think a lot of people are finding games and getting into this. Hey, look at that crazy one, Exploding Kittens.
Yes,
that wasn't a board game company. That was a website that did a comic, right?
Yeah, right.
Something like that. They did a comic, and they put up a card game, and they made $8 million. $8.5 million. That's insane. If I ever make $8 million on a Kickstarter, you're never going to see me again. I'm going to be on the Cayman Islands. I'm going to be saying, "Hey, goodbye, guys."
Right.
No. I have more integrity than that. Hopefully, I wouldn't do that. But it's an amazing thing that a non game company went out there, did that, and boom, they did this. So, and then the gamers embraced it too.
Right.
So there's a synergy there with Kickstarter that is helping us grow even more. So will we see less Kickstarter, more Kickstarter? I don't know. We're seeing a lot of Kickstarter. So those ones that you mentioned, Craig, though, that are sort of high profile failures. Yeah. It's always going to be a caveat emptor. I can guarantee you right now, under my word as a human being, as much as a businessman, as much as my reputation on Stronghold, that if I put up something on Kickstarter, I'm going to deliver on that thing. Right. But if Craig Kalan puts up something, you never know what's going to happen.
You don't know. You don't know.
I wouldn't.
You know what I'm saying?
I would not put money in on that.
Any given human being that puts up an idea, you have to look at it. What's their cred to actually doing it, period. And moreover, doing it with the right components, with the right gameplay. Gameplay is as much as it should be the biggest thing of all, right? We're doing a game, so that's the biggest part. Always look at it at that. But a lot of the companies that you're seeing are doing phenomenally well are either doing it because, well, they had this other thing going on, like with Exploding Kittens, or they're already established, like Cool Mini or Not has done obviously extraordinarily well. We did well because we have a name out there. Some other big companies are doing it as well. So that's caveat emptor is I think always going to be the thing with something like Kickstarter, where you're not necessarily getting something in the end. It's only if that company can come forward with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask also on that vein, well, because I really feel like if you think about it, the video game, video games too, both the industries, video game and board game, obviously the board game industry is much smaller, but they both have a lot of passion in them and very strong communities. And I think that's why you're seeing the Kickstarter really does well in those communities, right?
Very true.
Between those two, those are the two big ones that generally get the and tech also. There's the sort of the crazy tech stuff does really, really well too. But again, that's a very tight community of really, it's all nerds in the end doing that stuff, right? So I really think that as long as the community is really tight, I think Kickstarter will continue to do well. And I think one of the things that knits the communities together are the conventions. So you see that all the geek related conventions, whether it's board games or Comic-Con or PAX with video games, they're all huge. And I wonder, one of the things I want to talk about in predictions was I kind of ask really, is there going to be consolidations in these conventions? I gotta feel like there's only so many of these. I feel like how big can they get and how many of them can there be before you guys in the industry? I remember when E3 collapsed, right? So I don't know if you guys follow the video game industry very, very well, but E3 used to be huge. Mm-hmm. And everybody went there, and it got so big and so expensive for the game companies to go. Even companies like Microsoft and Sony, they were like, "Screw this, we're out," and the whole thing just fell apart. And then they kind of brought it back slowly as a media only thing, and eventually it came back, and now it's pretty big again. But it took them a while to recover from the too big, too much, too insane. And are we on a path for that in board gaming? I mean, at some point, how many of these things can you go to, Steve, in a year before you just got to stop going to them?
Okay, so here's my next prediction.
Yep.
You ready? This is huge.
All right.
Uh-oh.
There'll be more and more conventions to go to. Now, having said that, does that mean there's going to be more and more like Gen Con size conventions and Essence size conventions? The answer is absolutely not. Those are the big ones, and those are going to remain the big ones. Gen Con in the U.S. is going to remain the biggest and biggest in the world now. Gen Con, the biggest in Europe. And that's where we're going to see most of the game releases year after year. But if you look at all of the conventions, and I mean like just about every one that's well run, of course, we're talking about, professionally run, well organized conventions, they're all up in attendance. Origins, which people were writing the death knell of Origins like 3 years ago. They were like, they can't run it. It's just bad. The convention was tremendous this year. Did a great job. Set another new record. I forgot the number. They had 16,000 plus this year, which is a fantastic number for them. Dice Tower Con. Look at what Tom and his group is doing down in Florida. Of course, he's got a huge cult of personality, and that's great. And the Dice Tower Network is really helping him there. But that convention runs fantastically and is growing bigger. They're moving to a new space. Yep. We're gonna see this in many, many places. And this corresponds almost directly with what we're talking about, the expansion in the industry. More gamers, more people playing, more people wanting to get together. We're going to have bigger conventions across the country, across the world.
All right, well, we've got to watch for that then. I don't know how you manufacturers are going to make it to all of them.
Well, that's of course that's sort of a corollary to what you're saying. Now, will we make it to all of them? No, but that doesn't stop people from wanting to get together to create it. It's really not about me being there. I mean, Stronghold Games being at a given place. I mean, you guys want to get together to game at these things and socialize, and that's the important point of what a convention's about. You're going to have the bigger conventions of all of them. You're going to have the Gen Cons and the Origins and the Essence, and those conventions. We are all as the industry going to show up, and we're going to show off our wares, and we're going to sell to you, and we're going to bring out the newest stuff there. But a convention to bring people together to game, those conventions that are out there are going to continue to grow. More of them are going to spring up, and more of them are going to attract more people year over year.
Well, that's a great happy note we should end on, Stephen. So
Yes,
thank you so much for this interesting industry analysis here. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll hear from Total Fangirl and from the Hollywood Minute here. And then we'll be back because we figured since we have the person voted most likely to betray you on the Dice Tower Network on the show, we figured we'd talk about games with traitor mechanics. So
wow, nice segue. Very
Coming up,
That is a segue beyond segue.
Coming up a little later.
done.
Stay tuned.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, Total Fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. And our shout out is to all of our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We appreciate it very much. If you're not supporting us and you would like to, head on over to www.patreon.com/the D6 Generation and you too can support the show. Last weekend, I escaped home and went on a weekend getaway to the happiest place on earth. Yes, we went to Disney World for about 4 days. We combined a little work and a little fun. Just me and Russ. We got away for the weekend and it was great. Although really hot. Like I don't know how Florida people do it. Man, that place is hot. But we went down and we were excited to see the stuff that we haven't seen before and excited to see some of our old favorites. But what I wasn't really quite expecting there to be quite so much of, although I'm fully aware that they now own it, was all of the Star Wars stuff. Like Star Wars is not that far off. It's like less than 2 months? October, November, less than 3 months. So we're about 3 months out from when the new movie is going to come out. And I was super excited about the movie. And I've watched the trailers, but I'm trying not to watch or learn too much because I hate it when you have seen the best bits before you go into a movie, and I hate it when you feel like you've already sort of had things revealed. I like pretty much everything to be a surprise. Like, I'm happy about what I saw. I'm excited for the bits and pieces I've seen, but I don't need to know any more about the characters. I don't need to know any more about their backgrounds, their histories, who they are, what they're doing, and what their relation to the story is. I want to be surprised when I walk into the theater. I don't want to know every big character, every big ship, every big potential plot point before I've even had a chance to see it. So, the relevance to Disney World is that when you go down there now, Star Wars is everywhere. I mean, you can even buy balloons on Main Street. You know, it's Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Pluto, and Star Wars. And they're really cool. And they've got characters on it whose names I don't know on purpose. I have not looked to see what their characters' names were. There's the woman, and then there's the guy, and I think there was BB-8. He's the only one who I know. He was on there too. And it was very cool. And then they had stores set up where you had all sorts of merchandise that, you know, debuted just a few weeks back with all of the new characters. And there were some that you could push buttons and the characters would say things. I did not push the button. I avoided the button because I thought, I don't want to know what happens. I don't want to know what lines this character says are good enough to warrant putting it on this toy so that when I push this button, the character says them. When I hear those lines, I want it to be when I see the movie on the big screen. So it was an incredible challenge to avoid Star Wars while we were in Florida. Now, that said, the second this movie comes out, December 18th, I am all over going into the store and playing with every single stinking toy, pushing every button, playing with everything, looking at it all, reading every book, getting all of the Star Wars I can possibly handle once this movie comes out. But until then, I am studiously avoiding finding out any more than I already know. So it was probably the first and only time I'll ever go on vacation in Disney World and find myself torn between, wow, look at that cool Star Wars thing, and oh no, don't look, walk away, don't look at it, because I just don't want to know. Disney, shh, you've told us enough already.
and now it's time to talk about our friends at Geek Nation Tours, the place where nerds take you where they want to go, right?
Or geeks.
Or geeks, yeah. Geeky nerds, nerdy geeks.
And they take you to places where geeks enjoy to go.
Right, exactly. And our man Terrace there, first of all, Craig, have you really had a chance to now absorb the awesome that is the new Geek Nation Tours website?
It is amazing. It's like wall-to-wall images that shift as you just drift your cursor over them.
Yes.
Look at this. Look at this. Okay, ready? First of all, not a lot of people know that Geek Nation Tours actually has a property in Mexico where they do big family board game and beach holidays.
Yes, they do.
All year round.
Indeed.
And then, of course, we've got Oktoberfest coming up with Eschen in Spiel.
Yes.
New York Comic Con. Wait for it. Lucky Strike if you're a bowling nerd. I mean, geek. Because that's, the geek thing.
Yeah. How about the Got Dragons tour?
Got Dragons, a.k.a. Game of Thrones tour. That's okay. First, you're starting in Iceland. Then you're going to go to Ireland and probably Dubrovnik, I think, is where they do a lot of their other stuff. I mean, that's going to be awesome. Probably even Spain now for the Water Gardens.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just planning that one, so you can get in on the ground floor of that.
That looks. I want to go to that one.
Doomed Temples tour. Indiana Jones fans.
I know.
Look at
the
that.
Who's Your Doctor tour. I mean, all about Doctor Who. There is just, basically, they've got you covered. Whether it's New York Comic Con, here's the great thing about this. When you go on a tour with Geek Nation Tours, not only do you see the amazing events that you're going to, whether it's a con or specific sites, but then they take you to lesser known geeky places in the area as well. You're guaranteed to have a great time. And the best part is, you're traveling with other people who share your same interests. So you're not sitting there on the tour bus going, well, I don't really want to talk about gaming with that guy because he's clearly a jock or whatever. No, these guys are all interested in what you're interested in. The gals there too. So you can chat with them, chat them up, talk about your favorite games, play some games on the tour while you're between sites to see. It's just really a great time. And Terrace is such a great host and friendly guy, and he just makes sure that everyone is having a great time on these tours. So you can't go wrong.
He's like Julie, your tour director. Your cruise director.
He's just like Julie on the Love Boat. Exactly like that.
Blew it. But yeah, guys, do yourselves a favor. Go to geeknationtours.com. Check out all of the amazing. It doesn't matter if you like real war, if you like fake war, if you like Sherlock Holmes, if you like TV shows, Star Wars, Star Trek. He's got something literally for everyone who's excited about something.
That's right. So check it all out at
Geek Nation Tours. Oh, I thought we were going to go in unison.
.com.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute.
All right, well, as I record this here, the newest installment of the Hollywood Minute, there's a couple things going on. Getting ready to host and run the new, it's in beta, Star Wars cooperative campaign. It'll hold up to 6 players. It's called the Artillery Cluster, and it is looks like it's fan-made with perhaps some FFG support. I'm not sure, but the bundle is free to download for now. I'm not sure if that's because it's in beta or once it's out of beta it'll be a purchase price. But even if there is a purchase price, it's worth every thin red cent. And what you can do is everybody controls a ship, and you play against AI TIE fighters and such. I haven't played a mission yet. I've just read through the rules and the missions. It looks really fun. Right now I've got the crew interested in doing it. We're going to start this around October 20th, depending on when you hear this. It might be happening simultaneously. And we've got a good 6 to 8 people that are interested. The other thing that looks really cool about it is you don't need the 6 people every night for it to work. Each mission is scaled based on the amount of players you have and the pilot skill points. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to hosting out my Space Rocks terrain. If you haven't checked out Space Rocks, you should really go ahead and check them out. They're at spacerocks.net, and you can follow me on my Twitter feed, which is the D6G Hollywood on Twitter, to see some pics and stuff going out as I go ahead and do the campaign. My next step is I'm going to send out to the color printer some of the different stations and things like that, and some different nebulous clouds and things to put on some card stock. and I'm going to do that. And then looking forward to it. Looking forward to rolling it out. I also hope to get another test run in. Heading out to Docks for a little birthday weekend. Going to do some D&D, play some War Machine, and play some Artillery Cluster co-op over there in Ohio. I leave there this Thursday, so by the time you hear this, I'll have already come and gone. So hopefully I'll get a couple runs in there, so when I do it for the game group, I work out the bugs. And let's see, looking forward to continuing our D&D 5e campaign. Been playing just a little bit of Dragon Age. Had a busy work week, so I wasn't able to get too much Dragon Age in. Looking forward to that. Also cranked up in Batman Arkham Knight again. Cranked that along. Looking forward to finishing that out so I think I'm going to do Fallout 4 is next. I still have a little bit of an MMO itch. I heard Ross Watson talking about Star Trek. That'd be cool. That's going along with my Star Trek fetish of watching Voyager. We're up to season 4. 7 of 9 has now joined the cast. I really do. I just love Voyager. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm enjoying it, because when I watch it, I just relax and have fun there. But that's a great series. It's on Netflix, all 7 series. Had a chance to play Lords of Waterdeep with the expansion with the guys out of Portsmouth, the nerds as they're called. That's just a fun game. If you haven't played Lords of Waterdeep in a long time, I cannot recommend that game enough. So easy, so simple to play, great synergies, you always feel like you're in it, super fun. Searching around for the right battle phone bag to fit my new Star Wars hobby in. I want to fit the two starter trays that I've got in there, as well as maybe some extra room to store my terrain, my battle rocks, and things like that. So doing some battle foam searching. Well, that's about it. Does anybody have any games they like playing on their mobile phone? I'm still playing Marvel Puzzle Quest, but I don't know, maybe a little adventure game or a simple fun game would be fun. I'd like to pick that up. I heard Russ talk about the Lara Croft games, but that's more of a puzzler from what I understand. I'm not a super fan of the puzzler games. So I'm wondering if you guys out there have any super fun games. I did a game where you kind of played a robot and you went through it. I guess it was a puzzler, but it was more like an explorer puzzler. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's different than the Go series of games, types of puzzlers. If anybody has some mobile games, I'd love to hear them. Maybe send me a shout out on Twitter and I'll take a peek. Oh, that's about it. Here, I guess I'll sign off and get back to making some terrain. Oh yeah, I also wanted to give you guys a step-by-step guide here. Somebody asked me on Twitter, they were having a hard time playing Lord of the Rings collectible card game by Fantasy Flight Game in solo mode, and I promised him that I would give my tips out in the Hollywood Minute, and I went ahead and tweeted them out because I knew I wouldn't get to the minute for a while. He asked me about 10 days ago, but here, let me see if I can go through my tips as I remember them. Tip number 1 is just remember you're going to have fun. The way I built my deck was a two source deck, if you would. For me, it was leadership and tactics, and I picked a hero that would be good at generating resources, and a hero that could be good in fighting, and a hero that could be good in blocking, or I pick little throwaway blockers within the deck. And I just try to let the deck be balanced. I'm not playing with a ton of cards, by the way. I just have a couple expansions. The next thing I do is I go to the Fantasy Flight Games and I download the rules for the easy play, and I go ahead and I follow that. Basically what it does is it has you take out some of the cards that are a little bit more challenging. And then what I do is I create my own easy play. Let's say that I play the solo deck about 4 times, and there's one particular card that for whatever reason it either comes up too often or I don't have enough resources at the time. I'm talking about over 4 or 5 games. I just go ahead and pretend that card is one of the special cards that FFG says you can take out, and I go ahead and I take it out. I don't take it out live in that game, and if I encounter it once, I don't quit. But if I keep encountering that one stumbling block, I just go ahead and take it out in subsequent plays. The other thing I do is I read Tales from the Cards blog. There's great tips on deck building there and how to go through missions. And the last thing I do is just if you search the difficulty level, I think FFG has it in their forums, and there might even be a Wikipedia on it. Pay attention to the difficulty level of the campaign or the mission deck that you're trying to go through. If it's a wicked hard campaign, I don't do it. Just stick to the medium or easy. And that's how I play solo. But I have fun with it, and I don't mind losing. So remember, I might lose 4, 5, 6, 7 times to a deck, and that doesn't bother me. I think it's fun. What I do is I go back inside my deck, and I'm like, all right, why did I lose? Was it because I didn't get healing? Was it because I didn't get blockers? And then I tune my deck. So to me, losing gives me an excuse to have fun tuning my deck. So that's just me. Hopefully those tips will help you out there for some solo play in Lord of the Rings collectible card game. And yeah, other than that, till next time, happy gaming.
This is the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com.
Hey, welcome back. And now, it's been a while, Craig, since we did a Mulling Mechanics segment.
Mulling Mechanics. Oh, wait. That's worthy.
Do you have it?
Mulling Mechanics.
There it is. It's back. So, Steven's back on the show. And, one of the mechanics I don't think we've yet to mull.
I do not believe there has been a mulling of this particular mechanic.
It may have been lightly brewed, but I don't think we fully mulled.
There's been no mulling. There'll be no mulling here today. Oh, wait. We will be mulling here today.
Yeah, the Traitor mechanics. So, we got started with Troy. Let's get into this. So, Steven, now Stronghold Game has released how many games now with Traitor mechanics built in?
Well, normally they're called hidden Traitor mechanics, but I guess that's kind of...
No, look, anybody can use the word hidden, Steven. Come on.
I guess it's a redundancy, right? Because if everyone knows the Traitors, maybe it's just not the same kind of thing.
And it's just teams.
It's the soul of wit? Brevity's the soul of wit. And so I'm being brief.
So
witty.
We've
Shakespeare agrees with Ross.
That's right.
Advantage, Wakeland.
There you go.
All right.
So we have done two. One in long time, early-ish in the Stronghold Games time frames. Panic Station was our first one in the hidden Traitor mechanic.
Yep.
And now we have Dark Moon as our new one of the big hotnesses that we have out there now, just hitting the stores, and huge selling game, our biggest selling game, in fact, at Gen Con. So
I'm excited to hear more about that one. But before we get there, I think we should kind of retrace the steps, if you will. Of some of our favorite hidden, if you want to be specific, hidden Traitor mechanic games, our games with traitors, if you will.
Are hidden.
The first one, what are the first ones you guys played? The very first one I think I played was probably Werewolf.
It was definitely... I may have played Battlestar before I played Werewolf. Now that
really,
not me.
I might
Werewolf.
well have.
What about you, Steven? Is Werewolf your first one?
Oh, Werewolf absolutely has been. It's basically the granddaddy of all hidden Traitor games. I mean, or in its many incarnations, it was called Mafia. Technically,
yes,
I think
Mafia was the first version, right?
And then it just became. It really hit its popularity stride as Werewolf. I guess the supernatural types are very, very interesting to people.
Right.
And it's always been, one of my absolute favorite games. As long as you have the right kind of crowd, and a large enough crowd. I mean, excuse me, you can play it with as few as 8, but really Werewolf it really, really shines when you've got those big crowds of 20 people or more. That's when it's just phenomenal game.
So what's really interesting about the Werewolf mechanics is that there is no, how do I put this? There's no immediate game mechanics for really driving how you initially determine who the traitor is, right? So you got to start taking actions as if there's a traitor before you even have evaluated any activity, right? Which is
they've killed somebody right off the bat, so there's a traitor.
No, you're right. Well, they've killed a non-player off the bat.
They've killed an NPC,
but then a player dies, right? And then all of a sudden, so someone dies first. It depends who your rep is. But someone immediately dies.
The way I've always played is somebody immediately dies.
Yes, but it's the villagers who kill them, right?
No. Not the way I play.
The way the game is set up normally is that, the narrator is going to say that there's been a death in the village and Joe Blow has died. So somebody has died here and there's a werewolf in the village. You must now go find them. So go talk about it amongst yourself and go lynch somebody.
Yes.
So it's not that you physically just get rid of somebody and they never talk about it.
Right.
Usually.
They talk about it, but there's been no activity yet to figure out who did it, right? So,
I believe my performance of this game has evolved and shifted over time. Then.
so yeah,
Perhaps away from the actual rules.
Well, different. I mean, I only kind of know it because we just played at Gen Con, but so what's interesting about that, I just think that's really interesting, right? So, but really, what's also interesting about the mechanics in Werewolf is it's a very simple game, which I think is part of its charm.
Sure.
B, it's really all about discussion. There's no other mechanics other than the discussion mechanic and some very simple closing your eyes mechanics. I mean, they've added a lot of other characters, but I would argue that the more of those characters get added, the more it takes away from the game. And depends who you are, I guess. But the other thing that's interesting about it is that the roles never shift. And you always know there are some number of traitors, right?
Yes.
You should be told, I think, in Werewolf there are X number, usually for balancing purposes, if for no other reason, that there are this number of werewolves. Though I've played in games where that's not the case. There'll be like one werewolf in a very large game. Then they balance it with other werewolf sympathizing characters and things like that will help them out a little bit.
So what's your favorite flavor of werewolf, Stephen?
I like to when you say that, you mean like what roles and stuff. I like to play werewolf more or less, with its basic roles, but we do extend it when I play. We will have you obviously always have the seer, and we'll have the hunter there, and I'm just trying to remember the roles. I just don't have them all in my head, but I don't play it with any of the really, really wild ones, I guess you can say, because there are some like out there. I mean, in Ultimate Werewolf, there are some things in there that are just like you basically have to be not only an uber advanced player, but you just need to be so careful about how you put those people into the game, or else it's gonna throw the whole thing out of whack. You have to have very experienced players who know everything about the game to really use some of those roles. I guess I'm a purist, if you want to put it.
Can you give me a quick example of that, Stephen? Because I've only ever played the base game.
I can give you a couple.
Okay.
Cupid is one of them. So what,
Cupid is not such a hard one, I think.
Well, it's not hard.
You said that's a wild one.
Well,
okay.
I think when characters like that show up, though, like the players have to read the card and figure it out, and it's usually pretty straightforward. But as soon as someone spends a lot of time reading their card, it's kind of like, oh, what's going on over there, right? So I think you'd have to have a little more advanced play for that. But there are some like Cupid's one of them, but there's some others, Stephen, that are more. But Cupid's thing is neat, Craig. So you pick two characters that are in love. Mm-hmm. And then when one dies, the other one automatically dies because he or she commits suicide with the death of the first one.
Okay.
So that's the Cupid mechanic.
That's the only thing?
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Cupid essentially, in the beginning of the game, Cupid kind of wakes up independently of everybody and points to two characters, and they don't know in love.
And they don't know who they are? Or
then later on, after Cupid does that, Cupid goes back to sleep, and then then the moderator walks around, taps two people, and says, "People I tapped, wake up, you're in love."
Okay.
And now, they must protect each other, essentially. So, and one could be a werewolf.
Right.
Right.
Which is really interesting. That's actually one of the really
pretty cool
ones that I kind of like. The hardest one of all, I think, is the little girl. I find that one to be it's so hard not to cheat with that one. So I don't like to play with that one. That's a role where somebody is allowed to look during, like a villager, is allowed to look during the werewolf phase, open their eyes and kind of peek. It's a little girl kind of looking through a window is what it means.
Right.
But it's a really hard thing to do because, if somebody opens their eyes and you see them opening their eyes, are they just one of the werewolves? And what if they open their eyes during the first phase? So it's kind of, it's a weird one that I stay away from, I guess.
Right. That's one of the old ones though, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
But I agree. That one I usually end up taking out when I'm doing it with my classes because just specifically because of that. Yeah.
There are werewolf sympathizers though too, right, Stephen? That are in.
Yeah. Now what's that? I know not of these werewolf sympathizers.
There's like and I can't to top me remember how they work, but there's like the were-rat. So it's this person or it's somebody that's not a werewolf, but it's something else that's like
there's a bunch.
that. So,
Ultimate Werewolf is a lot of different
Oh my God, it has so many. And shout out to Bezier Games and my buddy Ted there. He's done a great job with keeping werewolf alive.
My girls actually love that flavor. So my girls love werewolf, and they'll grab those cards and go off and play with like way below player count, but just try all the crazy characters to see how they work. Right. So they do like that. So it does make the game lively. But so werewolf's a really nice, simple game with Traitor mechanics in it. And really, what's interesting about it too is you're really watching social interaction. So the only mechanics of the game you can really watch are social, and try to figure out cues. Like when I played at Gen Con, I was very lucky and able as seer to take out the two werewolves very early, only because. So what happens socially a lot of times with werewolf is the mob will pick someone on a totally random thing. Like that guy's literally got the more facial hair than anybody else in the group. Let's vote him out. Because there's no other reason in the beginning round you don't have any evidence unless you spend a lot of time talking and hope that just there's some kind of things. What happened was we'd play like 2 or 3 games with the same crew, and invariably everybody's like, sure, kill that guy. And one time we picked a person at random, and when that happens, by the way, the werewolves have already opened their eyes once at night and kind of know each other is. So one person started defending him. And as soon as that happened, I was like, why does this guy care this other guy shouldn't die? And the only reason that would be is if he's a werewolf. So the next round, I seared the other guy. We killed the first guy, happened to be a werewolf, see the other guy, and we got them both. So like, boom. But you're looking for cues like that, right, the whole time. You're looking for those little social cues to give away, which is very interesting. There's no other real mechanics in the game to help you out, or you're listening for movement or things like that. So it's a very physical game and very, very poker-esque, which is really neat.
Yeah, agreed. And it's all about watching how people are reacting to things. And again, it's one of my favorite go-to big group games, as long as you have a nice group of people who want to interact with each other. So lots of fun.
So the first real is the wrong word, but the first traditional, I would say, board game I ever played with a Traitor mechanic in it, and I fell in love with it immediately, was Shadows over Camelot by Days of Wonder. Have you guys both played this one?
Absolutely.
I did.
So this predates Battlestar by a little bit, and because I remember when we did Battlestar, the review when it came out, we compared it a lot to Shadows. And one of the things that fascinated me the most about Shadows over Camelot was the idea that there wasn't always a traitor. So, unlike Werewolf, where you know there's a traitor, and Battlestar, where you know there's a traitor, more about Battlestar in a bit, in Shadows over Camelot, there may be a traitor, there may not be a traitor.
Right.
And so that really makes it complicated because you're not really sure if someone... And the mechanics are such that you can mess up as a loyal player in the game or not play as efficiently and you don't have perfect knowledge of the player's hands and things. So you're not really sure 100%. It's not like Werewolf where if someone slips up socially, yeah, kind of like I got him. In Shadows, you could play a bad card into a situation unintentionally or just in a way because you have no better cards. And it looks, you just say, I'm sorry, I'm not, just all I got, right? What did you guys think of Shadows when you first played it, and how do those Traitor mechanics stack up for you?
I think Shadows was the first modern board game that had the hidden traitor mechanic, because you actually had a game there. You had those quests that you have to go on to, and you had these things to do. Now they kind of made some of those quests a little bit abstract. You have to like put pairs down and things like that. That's kind of how they got them. But you felt like you had these missions to go on, so you were doing these things as a group. And then trying to, of course, figure out who this traitor was. So it definitely started. That was the game that really started the trend in a board game with a hidden traitor mechanic.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably between that and Battlestar were kind of like how Dominion sort of started deck building. I think those two games probably Battlestar was probably the more famous of the two because of the license, but both those games started kicked off. I think the co-op and traitor sort of thing, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy Camelot that much. And I remember that feeling kind of like left out, and I didn't know why. Because I should enjoy it, but I felt like it was more of a solitaire game, I think, right? That's kind of the feel that you get.
Well, it's a co-op. It's very co-op.
But as you're doing all the different quests, you're kind of like doing it on your own, aren't you?
You're all putting cards into the quests, so you're kind of sharing them a little bit. But you're right, there can be that solitaire feeling. I can see that because you can play it where, okay, Craig, you go take on the Black Knight. I'll go deal with the guy with the catapults on the lawn, and Or there are ways you can work together. So it kind of depends on your group. It can go either way, really.
Yeah, I think I found it not as social a game.
Yeah.
I guess, and when Battlestar came along, it was an extremely social game, and I loved it from the very first time we played it. I was super excited about the way it played. I was super excited about the way that that the traitor mechanic worked out. The one thing that I think we can talk about when we're talking about hidden traitor mechanics is when you're talking about Battlestar. I think the one area where I think that it falls apart for Battlestar is when you get caught. Your game's kind of shut down almost, and your options are extremely limited from that point on. Whether you're in the brig or you kill yourself and you go back to the resurrection ship, like your options now become much more limited. And as a direct opponent, your options are much more limited. And I found that to be like it's super exciting when you're the traitor, when you're the Cylon and you're in there and you're hiding. But it's almost like more than just, oh, the game is not going my way when you get caught. It's more like, wow, now I'm kind of like just got to hope for the best sort of thing. Because in that game, you could very well lose, the humans could very well lose on their own because some of those things are really hard, right? So,
sure, right.
So I would say I much prefer Battlestar over Shadows, except that for that element, I guess.
Yep. I think Battlestar, took when it came out, the similarities or the legacy back to Shadows, I think was very evident. Yeah. I think it kind of learned from Shadows and then just kind of took it to the next level. Certainly thematically, it's very well integrated, and you feel like you're really doing things on that ship to increase the longevity of the humans, to make sure that they're doing things. You've just felt the connection to the theme really well. At least I believe that you do. So and then of course the game scales with more Cylons, more traitors in the game, depending on how many players you have in the game. So now you're working, in a game system where, okay, there's one of them. No, there's two. No, there's three, depending on how many players in the game, which really makes it an interesting situation.
Right.
So I really enjoyed how they went from that, kind of single trader into this multi-trader board game.
Yep. And on top of that, there's that aspect where you might be a trader from the beginning, or you might play half the game thinking you're a human and working with all the humans, and then halfway through the game, all of a sudden find out that you're actually a traitor.
Yeah. That was a very, very, very interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, perfectly fit in with the theme and was a really cool twist to the whole game. Except that you've been working so hard to help them win, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I got to throw it all away. But that game messes with your head, man. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you guys brought up a lot of great points there, right? So a couple things. I think if you compare the way the mechanics work for the traders here for a second. So one of the big weaknesses of Werewolf is that there's player elimination, right? So when you're found out, you're out, right?
Right.
And, generally Werewolves played in pretty short rounds, although I've seen some very long debates go on. So, generally it's not too bad, but still it kind of sucks to be knocked out in round one or round two. So that stinks. The problem that Shadows and Battlestar solved a little bit was when you are discovered as a traitor, you can stay in the game. You just shift in what you can do, right? And you definitely have disadvantages for being found. So it's still very strongly encouraged that you remain hidden, but even once you're exposed, you're still in the game. You can still do things.
You're not eliminated.
Right, you're not eliminated. So there's no player elimination.
Although one of the Battlestar expansions did add that in, didn't they? I think they added, you could space somebody.
Yeah, there's spacing, but I thought you picked another character and came back in.
You do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
You're never
that's
out.
true.
You're never out. So that's both of those are interesting, but then Craig, one other mechanic difference I think that made Battlestar to fix the problem you talked about, Craig, was that every event in the game involves all the players at the table, right? So when you go to do something, so unlike Shadows where it's only the guys at that spot, and there are some spots where only one person can act at a time, and Werewolf has this too in a way. Every major event is pretty much the whole group, right? Yeah. When the Werewolves act at night, it's very short, and then you're back to the whole group debating and interacting, so there's no downtime. Shadows has that downtime a little bit, and Battlestar doesn't. There's a whole interaction every single time, and you're constantly watching, kind of like Werewolf. You're constantly watching for the cards in that pile to indicate if someone was up to some shenanigans, right?
Right.
Which is really very engaging. But I think and I think also the other thing that's different in this game, and others do this too a little bit more now, is that Traitor, your loyalty can shift during the game, right, as you play, and that was really another very different part of it, and I think made Battlestar very compelling. I think Battlestar's only real weakness, if you didn't mind the shift, was the complexity around setting up the Cylon decks was such that there are many stories of people screwing it up.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you're an hour and a half into it, and you don't know because you can say in a werewolf game, if you're supposed to have 3 werewolves, and you start off, and you get to the first night, and the storyteller looks and only 2 werewolves open their eyes, you're like, oh, wait, we had a bad deal, let's start over. It takes 30 seconds, right? But in Battlestar, you're like an hour and a half in before if you know if that second round of roll decks got screwed up, right? So that could be that was kind of a weakness. And the other second part is Battlestar can be a very long game. It can sometimes outstay its welcome, especially with the expansions, right? So that became sort of a thing. But it was a great game. There are a lot of really cool ideas expressed in there. It still is a great game, by the way. A lot of our friends still play it regularly. And it really was a great kickoff to the hidden Traitor, if you will, mechanic.
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica is still, absolutely one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
The fact that, and you have these epic experiences that you're going to have with your friends that that you talk about them for all kinds of amount of time, like afterwards. You remember when he did that, and then he revealed that he screwed us up, and those great stories that you end up having. But as you said, we're talking about a 3 or 4+ hour, game time.
Right.
How often can you get people to the table to do that? You get people together at 8 o'clock at night, for instance, and you're like, oh no, we can't do that because it'll be too late. I got to get out of here by 11 or something like that. So we can't play the game. So it becomes something that some people just don't want to approach anymore, and therefore, what we ended up doing, and maybe this is a good segue, is we took some of that. We took that paranoia from Battlestar Galactica, and we brought it into, or the designer brought it into something that he called originally BSG Express.
I remember that.
This dice rolling version of the game, and then stripped out the BSG from it, and then we brought it out as Dark Moon. And that's sort of the legacy of how Dark Moon got produced. It came out of Battlestar from a thematic standpoint, stripped out all of that crazy length, and then brought it into this 1 hour gameplay time with all that tension squeezed into an hour. Now you can play the game 3 times in the same time. 4 times.
So you got to tell me a little bit about Dark Moon, Stephen.
Wait a minute, you didn't play it yet?
No. Well, you sent us a copy, and we do have one. Full disclosure, we have a copy from Stronghold. This is not a review. We will review this game in the not-too-distant future. But
hold you to that.
I do want to ask you, Stephen, because when we got it, it was like right before Gen Con, and so Gen Con happened, and I got piles of stuff everywhere, and but it's still at the top of the pile. I'll give you that. And it was the talk of Gen Con. Everybody's excited to see it. It's really, really hot right now. It's obviously a fantastically well-received game. And I really want to understand, so what key mechanics did you guys, when you look at something like Battlestar and you say, this is a fantastic game, there's some, what kind of things were you trying to solve? Was it really the core or centered around the play length? And what else were you trying to solve? And then what did you feel with the essence you were trying to capture when the designer and then you guys got involved and wanted really Dark Moon to be exactly what it was or is?
Sure. Yeah, and I'm going to give all the props, 100% of the props to Evan Derrick, who created BSG Express, the original version of the game, and continue then to take out the BSG from it and re-implement it thematically as Dark Moon. And he then continued to make a few changes here and there just to keep improving it. He got it out to so many groups. But the brilliance, the real brilliance in Dark Moon is this dice mechanic. So in Battlestar, where every time you go on, you do a task. I forgot what they call it, challenges. When you're going out there and you have to, the crisis deck comes up, right? And you have to put X number of points, of cards to overcome whatever the crisis is, right?
Right.
In Dark Moon, what happens is, so this comes up, and now you're going to have to put. You're going to roll behind a screen with dice and then present one die into the pool. Now, every one of those dice, they're 6-sided dice, and every one of those dice have 4 negative sides and 2 positive sides. So your expected roll on any given single roll is a negative.
Right.
Right? Even when you're rolling 2 dice, there's only a 50-50 chance approximately that you're going to be able to roll 1 positive number.
Right.
So even the good guys end up looking like bad guys so often. So you need to have great bluffing skills and a little bit of luck as well to make sure that you as a good guy, for instance, you can get a positive number into the pool. And I just played one recently, and I kind of knew who the bad guys were. They were poisoning the pot. Sometimes they were doing good, but my good buddy Larry, he kept putting negative numbers in, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm pretty sure it's these guys, but now he goes, dude, the dice are against me tonight. I'm telling you. So you're just having these epic moments of trying to get a roll that's going to make sense for you. So sometimes you'll present that die, it's negative, then you'll try it again. You try that challenge again, and then you may be able to present a positive number in there. So maybe people will not be thinking that you are the infected in the game. No Cylons here. Now you're the infected. That hidden dice mechanic makes the traitors so hard to actually find out who they are. So that is the brilliance of that game.
Neat. Now, how does their role assignments permanent from the beginning, a la Werewolf, or can they change throughout the game?
No, you do not change.
Okay.
That's something that's definitely part of this game. You're going to find out in the beginning of the game who you are. You're either human or you're infected, and that will scale similar to like Battlestar, and it'll scale depending on the number of players between 1, 2, or 3 infected players. And that person then, or people have to, will not know each other. They won't even know who each other are. They'll get the same kind of cues that the rest of the players get as to who might be on their side or not. And of course, once they find out who they are, they then have to attempt to poison the pots enough so that you don't succeed on some of these challenges, and therefore the object of the game is for the humans to have to survive to the final event, and the infected player or players have to destroy one of the systems on the space station. Like in Battlestar, it's you have to get to 0 pop or 0 food or one of those 4 dials. Here you have to destroy one of the 3 systems on the space station.
Oh, sounds really cool. I want to try it even more now. That sounds awesome. So, that's great. And again, and what's the average play length time, and how many players does it support?
Yeah, it goes from 3 to 7 players, and amazingly plays really well at both ends. I wouldn't recommend immediately going to a 7-player game because then because you have to get the flow and everything. But plays very well between 3 and 7 players, and plays 60 minutes, 75 minutes, so an hour 15 minutes per game. And that's the brilliance. And another part of the brilliance of this game is that you can then, you bring it out. You're gonna play the game. You're gonna be talking about it. You're like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. You poisoned this. You did this, and then you're gonna want to do it again. And you're gonna play, and you can say, I want to do it again. And you can get 3 of these games in a night without a problem. Awesome. Whereas, of course, in Battlestar, you're gonna get 1 if you can get enough people to play that game for the 3-4 hours that it has to take to play it.
Right. Well, great. Well, now I really want to try it. Craig, do you have any more Dark Moon questions? Because I have another thing I want to cover.
No. It sounds cool, though. I want to know why we haven't played it, Russ.
Well,
Who did it get mailed to, Steven? Wait a minute.
I'll bring it next Tuesday.
Well, I know that he's the rules guy, and he learns all the rules.
I do.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Wow. I'm on your side, man. That seemed like a little backhand shot.
No, we're good. So cool. So what do you guys think about... Well, I want to ask one more question about this. So I know, Stephen, you qualified this at the beginning saying it's the hidden traitor mechanic we're talking about here today. So when you think of a game like Bang, where there's hidden roles, but it's more like team play, or is it traitor play? Do you think of a game like Bang, whether it's the card game or the dice game, do you think of that as a traitor game? I mean, if you think about Werewolf as there's always roles from the beginning...
Yeah, I saw that in the notes, Russ, and I don't think of it as a traitor game. But, that was my initial impulse. But then the more because there's good guys and bad guys, you just don't know who is who.
Right.
But everybody's pretending to be a good guy.
Right.
So it's kind of like they're not traitors.
Well, because there's
From the
one-
very beginning, they're not traitors,
Right.
but they're just totally lying to your face.
Right, because there's a known guy. Everybody knows who the sheriff is.
Yeah.
Right. So I think Bang's a really interesting game in this genre, if you will, of hidden
definitely-
roles. If I can expand the genre slightly for a minute here, then we can let's debate whether or not it's really the same thing. But so you got one guy. So in Werewolf, for example, you've got the town, and they're all the good people theoretically, right? Battlestar, you have the folks on the ship, and Camelot, you have the Camelot folks, and in Dark Moon, you have the non-infected people. So you have these groups, right? And then there's another group who is trying to take down the quote unquote good guys. But you don't know who the other group is, and it's in the other group's best interest not to expose, to stay hidden, right? Because the game is stacked against them being discovered, right? Sure. So is it in that? Maybe I'm pushing the analogy, but does that in that context is it sort of the same idea?
I think it is. I would put Bang as a hidden traitor game. I mean, even though it's teams, I mean, Werewolf is a team game, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and for that matter, Dark Moon at the higher player counts is a team game, even though they don't know who the team is. And in fact, in Bang, you don't know who the team is, right? You if you're with the higher player counts again, there's two outlaws trying to kill the sheriff. There could even be two renegades at the highest player counts. I think in Bang the Dice game at least.
You can get to
who
two
are
renegades.
Then trying to be the last player
Yeah,
standing.
at the highest level, there could be two. Yep.
Two. Okay,
Right.
two.
At
There
the
you go.
highest level, yep.
Yep.
It might be the most
Yeah,
evil.
I agree that they are. I mean, I think that it is the same style, but implemented differently. And by the way, I think Bang the Dice game is at this point a far superior.
Oh, yes.
game. I mean,
Agreed.
It's a really
Without a doubt.
fast, moving, just good. You can play that game a whole bunch of times. Gives you the same experience. I mean, I used to love Bang, but it does kind of overstay its welcome after a while. And people kind of get knocked out, and who wants to sit on the side for another hour? So Bang the Dice game, we play it constantly here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. So Bang the Dice game is by far is a fixed implementation of Bang. So the first Bang I loved, but you're right with people who take the game too seriously, or if it just goes long or whatever. But I like the idea of Bang a lot, and that's why I like the dice game now, because it still has all the things in Bang I like, which is one person's role is known, which is really interesting. Actually, you don't know that very well. But the weird thing about it is the other teams don't know who's on their team. So in Werewolf, the werewolves know each other, right? But I guess the villagers don't know who's on their team. I guess you could argue. In Battlestar, do the Cylons know each other? They don't.
No, they don't.
do not.
They don't, right? And in Shadows, you don't know who each other. In Dark Moon, Stephen, do you know who the fellow infected are?
They do not know who each other
So it's
are.
kind of a thing. Those games you don't. So Werewolf's a little different, but you don't know who is on your side, and you're kind of guessing all the way to the end. But what's really crazy about Bang is there's a third team in Bang, right? Because the Renegade's job is to look just like an outlaw.
They're not a team. That's what's even cooler.
No, right. They're not a
For
team.
every renegade, there's another team because they can't work together.
Right. And their job is to pretend. Here's their weird job. Their job is to look. Everybody's job is to look like a deputy. Until some point, the Renegade's job is to really look like an outlaw.
Yeah.
And then his job is to reveal himself essentially when he goes mano a mano with the sheriff.
That's right.
And so it's really that's the hard role to play, I would argue.
I've only ever seen it once.
Yeah.
But it's intriguing and interesting, and I always want it. I personally always want it because it's that much harder as a gamer. We want the challenge of trying to win with that, right?
It is.
I love it.
That's why I'm so glad the dice version came out, because it speeds the game up. It's a lot more fun. It's easier to teach. It's easier to play. And yet all those elements I just described that I thought made the original Bang cool, the dice game still has all that in there. None of that changes.
Yeah.
So that's another fantastic variant on the Traitor mechanics, which I really like.
Did I mention that Hidden Traitor is my absolute favorite mechanic of all?
You did
mechanics?
not. You did
I don't
not.
think I mentioned that. It's kind of funny, but it is my absolute favorite mechanic of all mechanics in all games because of just this kind of conversation and just the fact that you have those wonderful moments that in the game and then after the game that you talk about. We have had so many great games of all of these that we still talk about to this day because it's that social aspect that I just love about games in general that they really shine with Hidden Traitor.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of it is the poker-esque bluffing mechanic that needs to happen in all these games, right? So you really have to, fool and essentially lie to each other. But what I like about these games is that going in. So it's just sort of understood that everybody sitting in that circle at Werewolf is lying, potentially. Everybody in Bang is deceiving you. Everybody in Battlestar, et cetera. So there's all that, that's going on constantly, which makes the game interesting because it's all about human interaction in the end, which makes them a lot of fun as well. So that's cool. What do you guys think about, we're getting a little long here, so I want to wrap, but I wanted to ask real quick, how important is that feeling? Because one of the things I think that's interesting about Bang is, I think both Battlestar and Shadows have this cooperative board game feel going on as well. So like, it's almost like you're playing a cooperative board game, but there's humans working against you, which I think makes the co-op a little more engaging. Whereas, I don't know, for some reason, I don't feel like Werewolf and Bang necessarily. I feel like there's a co-op thing happening at all. My job is to kill the other team.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? You know what I mean?
See, the reason that I think Bang is such a cool and interesting, Bang plays exactly like a hidden traitor mechanic game, but in my head still it's not narratively speaking. But there are times when you're going to pretend to be like working together as a group when you're trying to hide yourself. Mm-hmm. And you actually are, because you can't, there's no mechanic in Bang where you can hide your bad behavior.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like the cards are getting shuffled and then, I don't know how that got in there. I mean, and I think, did we even mention Homeland that does it a lot like Battlestar Galactica?
We should bring up Homeland. But before you go, there is actually, that's something that's a difference between Bang and Bang the Dice game.
Oh, yeah?
So in Bang the Dice game, because the dice you roll restricts your range and and you've got to shoot somebody, you could say, kind of like Steven was saying with Darkman, oh, well, sorry, Craig, but I got to shoot one guy to the left or right, and I just shot Steven last turn, so I'm going to shoot you this turn. Like, you could play it off as like the dice
a little bit. Yeah, but I think it's kind of it's not like the card where you can totally disavow what you did.
Right. I
mean, that's kind of you obviously shot me. Right, and you're going to give me the justification of why you shot. Right. And then I'm going to say that's crap because you didn't shoot Steven last turn.
Yep.
I mean, when it gets down to like when most of the players have been eliminated, then that's when that really does get interesting. I'm sorry, especially if you're the deputy. I'm so sorry, Sheriff, but I have no choice. You're the only one that's 2 away from me. I have to shoot you. Yeah.
The important point to be made here is that the more the traitors can stay hidden, the better. And that's why Dark Moon, if I may bring that back up again, Dark Moon does a great job of keeping you hidden as long as you want to be hidden, because you're going to be just constantly putting things in that's against the good guys, and if you roll 4 dice and you're still putting in negatives, they might get it. But if you're rolling 1 and 2 because you're trying to help out, and boom, then you're not, you're trying, but you didn't do it, and people might have to still believe you that you're a good guy. So that's why the more that you can stay hidden in these games, the better, and they're doing a good job with those.
Oh, I agree, and I think that's what's interesting about it's like shooting the moon in Hearts, or you don't want no one can know until it's too late, and then you want everybody to know and just glow all the way in. But there's a point, and I think the best of these traitor mechanic games do that, where now you can know I'm an outlaw, or now you can know I'm a Cylon because there's nothing you can do to stop me. I've won.
That's right.
So Stephen, there were 2 really hot games at Gen Con that featured Hidden Traitor. One was Dark Moon, and the other one was Homeland. Craig, you got a chance to really play Homeland. Can you give us a little spiel?
It's almost exactly like the Battlestar Galactica, except that there is no time during the game where you're calling out the traitor.
Right.
It's just a question of, oh crap, Craig's the traitor. Now we have to try to minimize his impact. And then it kind of frees you almost, because you're like, now I'm not even going to try to pretend that you can't. It's almost as if, imagine Battlestar Galactica, but when you know the Cylon's the Cylon, you can't put him in the brig, and you can't stop him from trying to mess with your cards. So now, otherwise, it's very similar to Battlestar Galactica, except there's a lot of exceptions to this. In Battlestar Galactica, where those remember Battlestar Galactica very quickly for the listeners who may not be familiar, everybody's putting in cards to help try to reach a target number, and some of the cards are positive and some of the cards are negative. So when you flip, and then they get shuffled, so you don't know who put what cards in there. So you don't know. In Homeland, you're doing that, but you're actually doing that on multiple missions all at the same time, and those missions are creeping up the terrorist alert ladder as you go. So they're going from yellow to orange to red, and they don't use colors; they use the names, and I've forgotten them. And then once they get to red, then they all resolve one after the other in the from left to right. And you've got to remember, who is stacking cards in there? Oh, I don't know. So it's even easier to kind of hide your intentions as you go. But even if people are just finally like, that's ridiculous, you didn't help at all, you had that ability and you didn't use it or whatever, you're the bad guy, you're the terrorist, and you're like, go ahead and try to stop me, because now I've got my bad cards all through the entire board.
Right.
So it really gives a sense of impending doom the whole time. That game does a great job of just the constant threat building up behind you and over your head. Otherwise, it works very, very similar to the Battlestar Galactica hidden traitor mechanic. And it is hidden from the very beginning. Everybody's given a role. And the cool way, it's not, it sort of looks like it's co-op, because there's good guys and one potential bad guy, and you don't know if there's even a bad guy. But the deal is, every one of your characters, you're not just like generic good guy. You're good guy who kind of wants it's like politically motivated secret agent. So you want there to be some bad stuff happening so that your political backers back in the United States are going to be able to gain more power. So it's sort of like, oh yeah, the good guys won. Now there's a tiebreaker amongst all the good guys. And some of those tiebreakers include wanting to fail certain missions or certain kinds of missions. So you can't, if I'm throwing this one mission, you don't even know for sure if I'm doing it because I'm a terrorist.
So it's kind of like a renegade thing a little bit, right?
Exactly. In my opinion, it takes that Battlestar Galactica approach to the hidden traitor mechanic and really kind of does to that what Steven was talking about Battlestar Galactica did to the Shadows over Camelot mechanics, and kind of kicks them up a notch, I thought.
Can your role shift throughout the game, or
your role cannot shift?
Okay.
So there is not that. There's not that, which is not. I mean, that's cool when it happens in Battlestar Galactica, but it can also be frustrating.
Right.
So there's not that frustration isn't built into that game. You know who you are from the beginning, and you know kind of what your goal is. And then on top of all that, all the characters from the TV show, if you know the TV show, otherwise just these cool special agents and stuff with special abilities come out, and you can kind of maneuver them to the best of your advantage, but some of them can interact in a way like, oh my God, you've got the traitor CIA guy, but I've got his wife, so I can steal it. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on. Also, Gale Force 9 obviously once again showing how cool how well they can adapt IPs to a game system. But you're always, if you start as the terrorist insurgent, then you stay that way the whole game.
Nice.
Very cool.
So cool. So there was so to your point earlier, Stephen, that this genre is still alive and well, and not only that, but there's some great new games coming out from a lot of folks in this area.
Definitely.
So that's very exciting. Since it's your favorite genre, it looks like you got a lot of games to choose from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, Russ, what you we don't want to miss, because you said you really wanted to talk a little bit about how important is it that you feel that somebody's working against you? Is that what you're talking about?
I was asking earlier about that a little bit, because we were talking about I prefer, so the only co-op games I find I really enjoy are, well, that's not true. There are some co-op games I like a lot, especially the dungeon crawls, but for the most part, pure co-ops for me are not as fun as one with a hidden traitor.
Uh-huh.
So if you look at, as you mentioned before, Shadows can feel like it's a little bit of solitaire going on, and almost board gamey, because you're not always. What's interesting about Shadows is it's like a co-op board game, and you kind of forget there's a traitor once in a while. Like, oh yeah, we're doing great, and then all of a sudden you realize one of these people aren't really helping me out much. And I like the idea that there's this extra little wrinkle in the otherwise completely game controlled opponents, which is there's occasionally a human working against me. And And Battlestar has that element too. So for me, I think it really increases this whole idea that you've got a great idea for a co-op board game, right? You really want to make that feel, but you really want to have a human mind involved somewhere, so it's not pure board game mechanics you're fighting. And there's this way to do it with a hidden traitor.
Yeah.
So because it's not like the Overlord mechanic where there's one dedicated player constantly against you. In this mechanic, you don't really know if there's a guy there, or you don't know who it is, and he's kind of playing along with you, but then occasionally screwing you up, right? So I like that element. I think it adds to the feeling of a co-op, and I prefer co-op games. I know they're really Traitor games, but I prefer co-op games that have this. If you're going to make a co-op to appeal to me, give me at least one player working against me. Basically, what I'm saying.
To me, that's what this whole genre is about. I mean, right?
Yeah.
You know, when we play a game together and we're, trying to win the game, it's normally like, okay, you're all sort of against me, so I'm going to try to just optimize and win. But when I don't know who that person is or people are that's against me, it gives this whole creepiness to it, and trying to figure that out is so important. Such an interesting and important feeling that's what makes this genre really tick. So I think that's, the more that happens, the more you feel that, well, I need to figure this out. I need to, I want to know who these guys are. That's what really makes this a very interesting genre of games.
And if you think about it, this hidden traitor mechanic does fix two very largely complained about problems in board games in general, whether or not they're co-op. So, for example, the problem in co-op games that people often complain about is the dominant alpha gamer telling everyone what to do. Right?
Right. Yep.
Well, that doesn't work in games with traitors because he doesn't know who he should be helping. And by the way, he could be the traitor himself and no one's going to listen to him. Right?
Right.
And the other one you get a lot is in the complete versus games, like, Risk or something. The problem you get is alliances form and people work together blatantly, or guy A just blindly follows guy B, right? And King makes him and throws the whole game away and makes everybody else's game miserable. But this goes away in these hidden traitor mechanic games because you don't know who to trust. And you don't know who you should be working with. So it fixes those two things, but you can still have these kinds of, you can kind of imagine the hidden traitor mechanic sort of popping up. And I'd actually would love to see it pop up in more area control war games. I think it'd be awesome in that genre. Privateer tried to do it a little bit with the level 7 invasion game, but it's not officially there. It's sort of a side thing and doesn't really, but I would love to see it more in, like, imagine playing a game like a Risk, but there's some mechanic where you're working together and then some mechanic where someone's betraying and you don't know. I feel like that kind of thing could be explored more. But there's some really good options here, and I just love the feeling of you're working together, but maybe you're not. And the alliances are shifting throughout the battle, so I think that's really cool.
Cool.
So anyway, great topic, and Stephen, thank you so much for your insights and also the details on Dark Moon as well and how it relates to this hidden traitor mechanic. That's really awesome.
Can't wait until Russ gets it to the table.
Yes, it's coming soon.
Coming soon.
And also, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. We really, really appreciate it. You've got a very busy schedule here between Gen Con and Essen, and you're running around like a crazy man. So
thank you for sharing yourself so generously.
Oh, no. And thank you guys. I'm always appreciative of when you let me on the show. If you don't know, this show was the first show I ever appeared on as the publisher back in 2010.
Wow.
So it was a long time ago. And I appreciate every time you let me on. You guys are friends of mine now. So I mean, we get to see each other like only once a year, really, at Gen Con, I guess, is the only time we really get to see each other. It's sad.
But that's why Gen Con's so special, right? We get to hook up and say hi and do all
those things. It's awesome.
It
so, is. But really, thanks so much, and it's it's great. And anytime you want me back, I'm always here for you.
Well, there's always a spot here. The third chair is always warm for you, Stephen, because
always open.
Someone else is just sitting in it. Really, is the problem. But real quick, before you go, if folks want to find out more about you and Stronghold Games and what you're up to next, where should they go on the internets?
Well, they probably should go over to strongholdgames.com, where we have a listing of all of our games, including our release schedule. We keep that up to date so you'll know when all of the latest Stronghold Games hotness is coming out right there on our homepage. They can follow us on Twitter at Stronghold Games. Facebook is /Stronghold Games. So we're all about Stronghold Games, so you can just find me, I'm sure. So
yes.
Please follow us. Sign up for our newsletter on our website. That's always big. We always get out first information about what's happening at the company to our newsletter subscribers. So we appreciate that.
Awesome. And Steve, I'll tell you right now, we're going to want you back on when Stronghold the game gets closer, because one of my favorites
coming out soon.
I know, right? Get close. Well, Stephen, best of luck to you at Essen this year, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care now.
Okay, thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
This Jim Notice is brought to you by all of our fine fans over at Patreon. And by fans, I mean patrons. Those folks who kick a little cash our way to keep the lights on and keep things flowing over here at the D6G. And today I would like in particular to thank Robert Moore, Ian Sharma Cook, Marcus, and Edward Doherty. Thanks, guys, and thanks all of you who have taken the time to watch that pathetic video and decided to give us a little money anyway. It's you guys who make the show work, and yes, indeed, doing the math, it's about 1%, 1.5% of the listenership. So thank you guys. You all deserve, I don't know. Do you ever notice how sometimes we complain so much we don't see the other side of the argument? Not really complaining, actually. I sat down here with absolutely no idea whatsoever what I was going to talk about. And then I got to thinking, and I'm looking around the pub, and I'm seeing I've got a whole zombie layout on one table, and on the other table I literally have 4 games in various stages of construction or deconstruction, just laid out or piled up. I see Imperial Assault, I see Frostgrave, I see Star Wars Armada is over there. Just a lot of the the games that we've most recently reviewed. And it gets me to thinking, like every now and then we get, and always in good fun and always tongue in cheek, but everybody's like, oh, you guys, I can't believe you made me spend more money. Well, listen up, buccos. Okay, here's the problem with that. I spend that much money too, and I don't ever get to play any of my stuff more than a week and a half to 2 weeks. That's the recently I was thinking about this, and I started to think, I don't get to, none of my games stay because the voracious appetite that is the D6G listenership. That's right. I blame you. I blame all of you. I don't. Not really. I enjoy this, and I love you guys, and it's awesome, and I really can't even believe I'm part of something like this, and I can't believe that something I'm a part of became this. But at the same time, it is incredibly frustrating. I get so excited, and then it's time to review, and then I get the email or the phone call or the text from Russ, hey, we gotta do another review! And it's like, okay, and it just breaks my momentum. I'm looking at all this snow-covered terrain, and in particular, this beautiful medieval ship that I built. And now it's got snow all over it. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. I still owe you guys pictures. I know. And I've never actually even got the chance to play with the ship with snow on it. Because by the time I got snow on it, we had moved on to the next thing we were reviewing. And that moves my, I'm human. I move, I flow with the times. And so when we get all excited about the next new big thing, you only have so much excitement in your life. And so I move on to the next thing. And right now I'm looking at towers and cemeteries and bridges and rivers, frozen over rivers, I might add. And a whole waterfront and the big medieval ship. And I'm just like, when am I going to get a chance to play that? And then I just start to grumble, and I can't believe I spent all that time and effort and money and blah, 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 blah. But then I look around, and then I'm like, oh, it's because of the D6 generation. It's because we're always having to do the next thing. But then I look around at my friends, and it's not like anybody else has been playing this game either lately. It just seems like it's wave after wave of shiny new thing, and then you're on to the next thing, and oh God, if I had one wish, it would be for something to stick long enough for me to make the terrain and play on it. That's what I would wish. And so, yeah. It's just this, every now and then this happens. I think this probably happens 2 or 3 times a year where I just start to get down on the pattern that my gaming life has assumed, where I'm just like I'm accumulating, I'm building and painting and modeling, and then by the time I'm finished, it's already time to do something else. And I don't know. I mean, literally, then I get to think, okay, so I have all my Imperial Assault painted, not the newest stuff, of course, because that's still in a pile that I can see from here, sitting over by the bar. And, but I've got all the basic stuff painted, and I played that a lot. I've got all the the Star Wars Armada stuff painted. Most of it comes painted, but I've got 2 sets of the fighters, all painted and ready to go. I've got those. I spent God knows how much money on those beautiful play mats, the poly something play mats from Inked Playmats. They're gorgeous. I got those. We actually got a chance to use those with Halo a couple of weeks ago, and that was cool because at least I got the chance to use, because followed the same pattern. I love Star Wars Armada. I blinged out the game, and by the time I had the stuff, we were on to something else. So at least I got a chance to use that star map for something. And I'm kind of excited that Russ kind of did a little, like I gave him all the Halo stuff because I was super, super busy when it came in, and he painted it all. So I didn't paint any of it. So I didn't have any kind of, like commitment or time or space issues with Halo. He just showed up with all that painted stuff, and I was like, cool, there you go. And that was an awesome game, but like there's no room to do like a campaign or a league. God forbid you try to do a league. It's craziness. And so, yeah, I have no answers. I am casting, I don't even have a question, really. This, did you ever notice, is really just a statement. And that statement is, boy, there's an awful lot of amazing games out right now, and there's just not enough time to play them. And that's it. Because even if I could find players, and I probably could, amongst my friends, I definitely could find somebody to play Frostgrave with me if I had it's at the middle of the play now, so I can't. But if I did, I could find somebody to play it. I could definitely find somebody to play Imperial Assault. People have been hounding me to go back to Star Wars Armada. But even if I stopped collecting new stuff, there's not enough time to play the stuff I've got. And so I think I've even done a Did You Ever Notice where I have to just, I guess the conclusion is I just have to enjoy, which I do. So I just have to accept that it's okay that I enjoy putting this stuff together and painting it and setting it up and putting snow all over it and then just looking at it for a little bit. And that, of course, gives me pleasure, and I guess I just have to be okay with that's where the pleasure is for a lot of this stuff, because God knows when the next time it's going to be that I can get to play this stuff. And so that's it, I guess. I just got a table full of stuff right now in the pub. And then there's Kickstarter stuff in boxes all over the place, too, that I haven't even opened. So I'm a victim of myself. I get it. Okay, fine. It's my fault. It's not your fault. I'm sorry I said that. I hope you're satisfied. That's all I've got to say about this. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@thed6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
Tonight we had some of the most fascinating, scintillating conversations.
Scintillating? I think you mean scintillating. Scintillating is not
tomato.
Show.
I believe you can say it either way. I'm pretty sure.
Can you, Craig?
That is one of the ones that I'm not entirely sure
Yeah,
on.
there you go.
There we go. Because I thought scintillating was something you saw on Cinemax.
No, that's titillating. That's titillating. That's something different that also sounds bad.
Okay.
This is a family-friendly podcast on the Dice Tower Network.
It's right. It is. Yes. Very much so.